What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 25 of the Silver and Gold. I'm Josh.
And I'm Mike.
Man, we finally made it to 25 episodes. We appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving us over the past couple months. We're a quarter of a way to 100, and we are we're probably a quarter away from the finale of the regular season, huh, Mike? More or less, right?
Probably
Um,
more.
yeah, we're coming to you guys on a Sunday, and it's a bit of like I guess we complained about the schedule flexing for the NFL a couple months ago, but we're having to flex the podcast a little bit. Um, but I have a good reason. I am going to be on vacation this week, so I will not be in town. If you want to catch all the videos, whether it be the recaps, the previews for the Raiders and the Niners for this week, they're all going to be in this video, and they won't be in the separate videos. But I think that just makes it a lot more special. And if you're a Raider fan tuning in, just wait till the end or skip to the end, and the Raiders versus Vikings preview will be, at the end of the video. But first, let's jump into the 49ers versus Eagles recap. We were on that ass. Now, Mike, I was literally thinking during the game, I was like, man, I'm really glad Mike wore that Jalen Hurts sweatshirt last week. Yeah, obviously, you
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who may have caught the podcast last week, Mike put on this like really ugly Eagles green hoodie. No, sweatshirt, or was
Sweatshirt.
it a hoodie? Okay, yeah, this sweatshirt that said "Hurts so good," and Mike's gonna go get it right now. And if this is the pain that I'm feeling, then yeah, it hurts absolutely fantastic. But the 49ers won. I believe the final score was 42-13. Let me just double check and verify for you guys. 49ers versus Eagles. 42-19. Okay, so the Eagles actually did. Yeah. All right. So Mike's got it. 42-19. The 49ers blew out the Eagles. And really, at the beginning of the game, it seemed like it was going to be this hard fought, defensive game. And then Kyle Shanahan finally, during a game, you can visibly see that he made adjustments and sort of went away from whatever he was calling at the beginning of the game and started to be a little bit more of a drop back and pass first offense, and then because McCaffrey really couldn't get going at the beginning of the game. I feel like, the Eagles were stopping them in the backfield. Like, they were losing a lot of yardage on first downs. And, I'm going to need your help on this, Mike, because I wasn't able to catch like the first two Niner drives of the game, but I watched the whole rest of the game. Can you explain to us how it was, like, first two drives of the game? Like, what was the tempo? How was the intensity? Were you able to catch it?
Yeah, I was able to catch it. I couldn't remember what the order was of like pass, rush, pass, but I remember McCaffrey getting stopped at least one time, and just a bunch of incomplete passes from Purdy to receivers. Mostly, I would say, due to pressure and good
Mhm.
coverage on the Eagles' side. And I want to say, at least for sure in the first two drives, but it might have been the entire first quarter, the Niners offense had -1 yard.
Yeah, it was like
I don't,
-2,
yeah,
for through a couple drives. I do remember they
and they,
went to like a commercial break or something, and the Eagles had, however much yardage that they had. It might have been even 100 to that point.
yeah. I mean
Because they were driving the field, they just weren't scoring the touchdowns.
yeah, the opening quarter, at the end of the first quarter, I texted you because obviously we both picked the Eagles, or sorry, we both picked the Niners last week, and at the end of the first quarter, I texted you. I was like, man, I probably should have just picked the Eagles. Like, this is
Mhm.
pretty bad because yeah, the Eagles kept driving down the field on the Niners, but the Niners red zone defense kept them in it.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I said that directly to you or in the group chat we have, but that was the one thing early on, because that could have been a complete momentum killer if the Eagles went down and scored 2 straight touchdowns and went up 14-0. Like,
Mhm.
it's the fourth quarter, the Niners can come back from a lot more than that, but still, that kills the momentum, and then that might kill a lot more potential rushes for McCaffrey, you know? I mean, you
Yeah,
probably
I
end up
mean,
just throwing to him, but still.
it changes the
And as
dynamic of the
far
game and the way that the 49ers are able to play, because really they
Yeah.
dictated the time of possession.
Yeah,
And,
and that was the thing. I think the Eagles had like 13 or 12 minutes in the first quarter of time of possession, like
mhm.
out of 15. So, yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I have to say Steve Wilkes, I think, called a pretty good game plan. He wasn't gonna let Jalen Hurts beat the Niners over the top. We saw I think Ambry Thomas play a lot of soft coverage, and sort of out of our three cornerbacks, I feel like Ambry Thomas might be the weakest link, but he is stepping it up and playing. He's playing very well. He's had flashes like this dating back to like 2021 when I think that was his rookie season, and like whether it be in the Rams game where he got the game-winning interception, but he seems to always be in pretty good position, to make a play on the ball. It's just, when it comes to actually making the play on the ball, that's where he needed to improve. And it looks like Steve Wilkes is having an impact on him because, Steve Wilkes is sort of a cornerback specialist as a defensive coordinator. He sort of I think he was a cornerback coach specifically before he was ever a defensive coordinator, or when he was an interim head coach over in Carolina. And
Mhm.
so uh, we go back to the way that the game played out. Debo Samuel, wow! I'm I'm gonna change my tune right now. I've kind of been on like the sort of mindset. Um, I kind of was on the boat of maybe we should try and trade Debo, or maybe we should have traded Debo instead of keeping him, and then like pay Ayuk. I think you got to pay both of these guys. I think they complement each other very well. It's kind of like the duo that the Eagles have, but
Mhm.
but different in a way. Like,
Different,
the
yeah.
Eagles have AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. And I feel like
Mhm.
Devontae Smith is like he's kind of like Ayuk, but I don't think he's as as I don't know. He doesn't sell his routes as well as Ayuk does.
Mhm.
And they're both kind of similar in a way because they're kind of like they live in a shadow of their offense because their offense doesn't run through them, but it could. Like, let's just say you put Devontae Smith on the Chiefs, Devontae Smith might be
Oh,
a much better player,
yeah,
like
he
an
he would
impact player.
yeah, he'd probably be all pro.
Like, I think the main difference between him and Brandon Ayuk is probably mainly the size, and Ayuk probably plays a little bit more physically than Devontae Smith. But they're both, you know, very good receivers. And then AJ Brown and Debo Samuel are kind of similar in the fact that they're pretty physical and they're kind,
Yeah.
I kind of hesitate to call Debo Samuel a diva because like, he'll do stuff outside of football that could make him a diva. He just plays like a bully and like a bowling ball when he plays. He doesn't
Yeah.
like I've never seen Debo Samuel throw a tantrum when he's not getting the ball on the side. Whereas AJ Brown, it seems like even when they're up, even when the Eagles are up, he's upset because he's not getting the ball.
Mhm. Right. Yeah, I do remember, like, in week 2 or 3, he was getting really upset with what seemed like he was getting upset with Jalen Hurts, but it could have been a thing of, you know, he feels that he could be helping the team by getting the ball thrown to him, and he's not getting that, you know? I
Mhm.
could see it in that light. If it's just all about, like, I want the ball, like, all right, now you're being a diva, you know? But if it's like, dude, if you just give me the ball, we can, like, do a lot better here. I understand that because AJ Brown, I would say, is probably a top I would go as far to say he's probably a top 3 receiver in the league, but I would say he's top 5.
I don't know about that. I
It
really
is
don't know
tough
because
because
Justin
you have
Jefferson, Jamar
Tyreek
Chase,
Hill
Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill.
and Tyreek Hill. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm a huge fan of AJ Brown's game. He is the type of receiver, like, he reminds me of, some Raider fans might kind of scoff at this, but from what I've seen of Tim Brown, like, he reminds me of.
Did we lose Mike? I think all the Raider fans pulled together and they absolutely just like found Mike's IP address and took him off the air. They didn't want him on the show. I'll take back over and sort of go over my points until Mike is able to reconnect. Oh, Mike, you're back.
Yes.
Okay.
What did you hear?
I heard that Raider Nation didn't like what you said about Tim Brown, so they took you off the air.
So literally the last thing you heard was Tim Brown.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. Anyways, I think he deserves the nomination of being like a top 5 receiver. But yes, I think it's hard to put him above guys like Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill. I would say Jamar Chase, AJ Brown. That's 5 names, right? And
Jamar
Stephon Diggs would be
Chase,
another one.
Jamar Chase, you said AJ Brown. Who else?
Jamar Chase, AJ Brown, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill,
Justin Jefferson.
You could add in Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs. But I would,
as of right now, I would still keep AJ Brown probably above Cooper Kupp until he can show that he can return back to his pre-2022 injury.
Yeah, pre-injury for sure. I don't know. I just think AJ Brown's the type of guy that just takes over a game sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But I think that if you look at the way that today's game played out, I think Deebo Samuel was the best wide receiver on the field today. He had 3 touchdowns. I want to say 2 were in the air, 1 was on the ground. And man, they should let Deebo run the ball more. Like, all right, what was my favorite play? What was my favorite play of his was the tunnel screen, and he was just, how I've talked about Joshua Dobbs or certain players who just every time they get the ball, they are going to the end zone. That they have tunnel vision on the end zone. Deebo Samuel is that kind of player when he wants to be, and when he's on, dude, good luck trying to stop him.
Yeah. No, today's game was very much 2019, 2020 for him. Whatever year where he was right there with Cooper Kupp. 2021. Yeah, today was one of those games for sure. I would say he was the best playmaker on the field. For sure. He was making all the plays tonight. And what really got the Niners started today was a couple passes to George Kittle. But then after that, it was like, okay, McCaffrey here, and then Deebo, Ayuk, McCaffrey, Kittle, Deebo. It was like, yeah, not in that order, but, no, Deebo's one of those guys that if you just call up the right plays, he will take over the game. But I'm not trying to shit on him. Just it's in a different way than like AJ Brown, or a Stephon Diggs or Devontae Adams. It's not because he's going to completely destroy a corner. It's because the play design is so well, and you just get him the ball and he will do the absolute rest. Give him one block and he's gone.
So you're saying Deebo Samuel under the right scheme is more lethal than those players, but the other players that we're referring to are, you can insert them pretty much in any offense and they'll excel. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying the second part. Yeah, I would say he is most lethal every here and there. Mm-hmm. But you have, if you just draw him up right, he can be. We saw it in 2021. He can be the most lethal player in the NFL, for sure. But and tonight was an example of that. But as far as actually like one-on-one coverage, one corner on receiver, like I would take those other 6 names that we mentioned earlier over Debo. But if you're talking
Mhm.
like a tunnel screen or handing it off, give me
Yeah.
Debo all day. You know,
Well, yeah, if we're talking about like before you get the ball, I'll take any of those other receivers as well. If you're talking about ball in the hands, I don't think I would rather have anyone else besides maybe Christian McCaffrey with the ball in their hands.
or
Um,
Tyreek Hill, maybe Tyreek Hill.
yeah, but Tyreek Hill is like you give him a little bit of open space and he'll turn it into a touchdown. Debo Samuel's like, well, he's kind of the same way,
But he can also break a
but
tackle.
yeah, he's gonna break several tackles.
Yeah.
By the way, we do have a couple comments, and uh, I'll get to them now. Actually, so James Wilson says, um, Eagles cheated by the NFL in the fourth quarter. Catch the ball and run out of bounds, I guess, does not stop the clock. Happened back-to-back plays with just under 6 minutes. Real talk BS, regardless of score. So I didn't notice that, but I do know that things like this do happen, unfortunately. Um, so James, I appreciate you for checking out the stream and sharing your thoughts. If you would do me a favor, and if under any of our videos, maybe the preview to this video, like if you look on our channel, we have a 49ers versus Eagles preview. If you could just maybe drop a link to certain clips, and then I can take I can take a little bit of time to take a look at it, maybe reply to your comments, see what you're talking about. I'd be happy to do so. And Mike's having a little bit of internet trouble, I believe, but I think I still got you guys here. So PS says, do you think the ejection of Greenlaw was necessary? I'm gonna wait for Mike to come back in before we talk about this, because I feel like I feel like it would be better for both of us to discuss, but I will take the rest of James's questions in the meantime. And it's James says, um, I would like your opinion on the matter if you can review the game. Okay, so I think we got that. James Wilson, I believe you are talking about the Greenlaw ejection. So James seems to believe, no, he got his hands put on him and acted like a champ, not reacting. Also garbage. So I'm assuming that James, it means no, as in the ejection was necessary. I kind of feel the same way. I don't think either person should have been ejected. Like, to be honest, I don't know what the NFL policy is on having security guards, that close to the players and that close to the team. From what it looked like to me, the security guard was, you know, yeah, he was probably trying to keep the peace and break the fight, but I think the way he went about it and the fact that he's like kind of decked out in Eagles gear, it's like and also like kind of pushing on Dre Greenlaw a little bit. Like, what else is Dre Greenlaw supposed to think? And you know, I wouldn't be shocked if Dre Greenlaw thought like, what is this coach doing putting his hands on me? And then finding out later that that's a security guard. Um, Yeah, no, I I did see, you know, some people are calling it a punch, that Dre Greenlaw punched him in the face. I feel like he barely touched him. It was like, he was like pointing at him and like, flailing his arms because he's like, man, what is he doing putting his hands on me? And that's me assuming that that's what's going on in his mind. For all I know, he could have been going full on Draymond Green, right? And actually throwing a punch. But I think if he wanted to throw a punch, he would throw like a meaningful one, uh, one that would actually be worthy of getting ejected. But really, uh, I did see that Nick Sirianni seemed to apologize to Kyle Shanahan after the game. And it seems like it was settled. Like, I don't think it had a ginormous impact on the game. Like, if the game would have immediately gone the Eagles favor after that, I think we would all be pointing to that, to the ejection. And so I'm going to pull up Pia's comment again. Pia asked we think that the ejection of Greenlaw was necessary. My answer is I don't think either should have been ejected. Mike, what do you think?
Um, I don't know. It was kind of close. I I don't know if Greenlaw had a previous penalty in the game, um, but the the security guy put his hand on Greenlaw. Greenlaw did take a swipe at his face after having already done the suplex tackle thing and the out of bounds. Um, I don't know what the rule is on you know non coaches or players putting hands on players during a game. I'm assuming it's very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know?
I don't know, and it's actually funny because you almost like word for word said the exact same thing that I said. I was like, I don't know the policy. I literally just said that like as
Just
you were
that, yeah.
trying to like log back in. But yeah, it's a good thing that you bring up the suplex, because obviously Dre Greenlaw, got the 15-yard penalty for unnecessary roughness on that before he was ejected. Um, I don't know. I kind of feel like that's one of those that sometimes they call it, sometimes they don't. I don't think it was like it wasn't the worst suplex that I've seen. You know what I mean? He
Yeah,
like he picked him up. I was just talking a couple minutes ago about how Devonte Smith is not that big, and Dre Greenlaw is like one of the hardest hitting linebackers in the NFL, and Devonte Smith was not going down and he was not going out of bounds. So, Dre Greenlaw decided to pull him out of bounds. You can't hit him hard. You can't go for the legs. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't, what can you do? Can't,
yeah,
throw him on the ground. Can't, like, what are we doing
yeah. I
here?
mean, I think you can probably pull him out of bounds a different way, because obviously I would say Greenlaw is stronger than Devontae Smith, or at least he should be. But I think pairing the suplex with taking a swipe at a guy on the Eagles sideline, I think it's probably worth the ejection. But I think what makes it fair is also ejecting the Eagles security guy.
Yeah. To me,
So
it's either you don't eject anybody or you eject them both.
yeah,
And it is kind of funny to me though. It's like he's being escorted off like off the field by like people who work under him. Like that to me is kind of funny a little bit. But
yeah,
uh it's like I he's like the head of security for the stadium or for the team, like, because it seemed like the announcers were like, "Oh yeah, all these players love this guy," and they made it seem like he's like really involved with the team.
yeah. Like everybody loves him on the team and stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know. They made it seem like he's like a family member of the team almost.
Mm,
So I don't know. That to me, that dynamic is a little bit weird. And just the fact that he was like there and put his hands on a player, like I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like you probably do not belong there. Like and the fact that I don't know if you heard this while you were trying to reconnect. The fact that he's like decked out in Eagles gear does not help at all. Like Dre Greenlaw probably thought he was a coach.
right. I definitely wonder if he was supposed to be on the sidelines or not, but for all we know, he is supposed to be here.
Mhm.
Always is. I don't know, but
Yeah. Joel says, salute boys. What's up, Joel? Thank you for tuning back in. We'll be talking about the Raiders versus Vikings a little bit later in the stream, so hopefully you're still tuned in by then. James also says, what are your thoughts on contact prior to catches in the game? I felt I was most upset about no calls on pass interference. AJ was mangled all night. I do know a couple instances where Ambry Thomas's head was turned around, or maybe Charvarius Ward's head was turned around, and they were making a little bit of contact right before the ball was about to hit the receiver's hands. And it was
Mhm.
kind of, to me, like a bang bang play. I don't feel like the players were being tackled, but typically the NFL is just very inconsistent when they call it. I've seen similar plays immediately, like, oh, the announcers are like, oh yeah, that's an immediate flag. His head is turned. He wasn't even looking at the ball. And then you got Greg Olson today, like, no, to me, that's just good football. Like, he made a good play on the ball. The way I saw it, and I'm extremely biased, I'm a 49er fan. It looked to me like the timing was just perfect, but he was not in perfect position, because when you have your back to the football, I don't think that's perfect position to defend, because more often than not, you're going to be called for pass interference.
Yeah, the way I always look at it is if the ball's coming your way and your head is not looking at the football and you make contact with the receiver, PI.
Mm-hmm.
Automatic PI in my book. That's why every time, whenever fade or end zone corner shot is thrown, and I see a corner, manned up on a receiver, and the receiver has a step on him, and the corner's, running like this with his
Mm-hmm.
head to the receiver and not looking back at the ball. I'm just like, oh my god, turn around, just turn around. Like you can tell by the receiver's body language that the ball is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Turn around, just turn and put your hand up. Find the ball, put your hand in the spot instead of starting to grab on the receiver and like, oh, and or put your hands up but like body up on him. It's like half the time at least you're going to get flagged, or they're going to catch it and you're going to look stupid. Just turn
Mm-hmm.
around. It's like, but then okay, there was a
But
play. I want to say it might have been Ambry Thomas or somebody else, but it wasn't. It wasn't Ward, and I think it was on Devontae Smith. Late in the game, it was like a corner shot in the end zone, and it was either third or fourth down, and the same thing happened where they did not turn their head, and they were on the receiver, but I couldn't tell if they were like grabbing him or just their bodies were touching. Which if their chest, like if his chest is touching the other guy's chest or whatever, that sounds weird, but as the ball's coming, like, if he really pushes him out of the way without using his hands, you can still call PI because he's not looking at the ball. Like he's not making a play at the ball,
mm-hmm.
But if he's disrupting the receiver, that's PI.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was another play I remember maybe in the third or fourth quarter where Jalen Hurts was scrambling, and I think it was a third or fourth down play. And AJ Brown was like on the left side of the field, and he was running like an in route or a crosser, not a crosser, but it was kind of deep. Like he was in the end zone, and Jalen Hurts evaded pressure, stood back for a while, like a good amount of time, and then pointed like this to the other side of the end zone for AJ Brown. And AJ Brown, you could see in the replay, he was trying to turn around on the corner, and the corner just was like kind of in his way and not letting him, to the point where AJ Brown kind of stopped his route and just looked at the ref and was like, dude, what the fuck? But I don't really know if that one's PI. Now, if AJ Brown tried harder to turn and really run, and the corner clearly grabs and holds him or pulls him back or whatever, PI, easy. But I think the way that he was running his route, it didn't really grant PI,
Mm-hmm.
on that one. So, but I'm sure there were many more instances that I wasn't paying attention,
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with Mike. So Pia, because she's a rock star, actually got the NFL rule. So non-player personnel of a club, example, management personnel, coaches, trainers, equipment personnel, are prohibited from making unnecessary physical contact with or directing abusive, threatening, or insulting language or gestures at opponents, game officials, or representatives of the league. Violations before or during the game may also result in disqualification.
So he's easily out. What he did is easily, ejection.
Any violations at the game site on the day of the game, including post game, may result in discipline by the commissioner. I don't want that guy to get fired. I don't think he deserves to get fired. But I would not be shocked if the NFL decided that, all right, we're gonna take this guy's job away, because look at what they did to the videographer for the Dolphins after Tyreek Hill got that touchdown, and then Tyreek Hill took the the videographer's phone and did a backflip because he knows the guy. And then the guy started like celebrating. And the NFL, I think they either suspended him or fired him. And I think Tyreek Hill has since hired that videographer because he knows the guy. But I know that person in particular, they have like a TikTok and whatnot, and like have started like growing because of this story. And I'm not saying it was good for them to be fired. Obviously, he didn't want that, but there are good things that result from stuff like this. Like I'm sure that if he wanted it his way, he would just be doing his Dolphins job and not have that affect his career.
Right.
But and the worst part about that situation, and in Miami in particular, is the fact that the NFL used that video, like posted that video all over social media, and like and then like punished the guy for getting it. Like people loved it. So I don't know,
I think
but you know what the NFL stands for, the No Fun League. So
I think as far as the Eagles security guy goes, he was rightfully ejected, and he might get some sort of disciplinary action, maybe a suspension. I don't think it's a fireable offense. I honestly think he was reacting in a natural human way of like, okay, opponent is getting physical. I'm trying to back him up. Like he didn't push on him or nothing. He didn't try to swipe at Greenlaw's face. He just kind of, I would say gently, put his hand on his chest and just moved him back just a little bit and was like talking to him. But I think in the replay you can catch him also saying cuss words after Greenlaw started like swiping at him. So yeah, he was definitely, he needed to be ejected, but I honestly don't think he should be I don't even think he should be suspended, honestly.
I feel like Greenlaw was like pointing at this dude like, what the fuck is he doing?
Right, or like, who are you?
And his hand caught like a little glimpse of the guy, but I honestly don't believe he threw a punch.
He didn't throw a punch, but he definitely went for his face.
All right,
he definitely swiped at his face.
Let me find the clip.
Because what he does, he goes like this. He goes like this, and he scuffs his cheek and then points at him. And he, like, you could see, like, he kind of went like this, but he wasn't punching. He was like, I think he was just trying to like.
Pia doesn't think that he was going for his face, but let's see. I've got it right here.
Unless he gets bumped from behind, it looks to me like he did.
I'm not going to play the audio. Okay. Okay. All right. I need to see another angle at that.
Then he points at him. I don't know, like, what else is he doing?
Mm-hmm.
Is he trying to get him to sniff his finger?
Well, yeah, he's probably like,
hey, smell this.
It's like, hey, I threw this man on his ass. What does this smell like? I don't know. Let's see it one more time, hopefully.
That was the most Philadelphia thing ever, though.
Okay, come on.
We already got the replay.
Yeah, I know, but I want to see it again from like another angle. All right, well, that just shows them tossing, but can I change the playback speed? Oh, yes. Let's go. Let's see here. Okay. He's pushing on him. He's like, okay. I'm sure his finger is extended right there already.
Mm-mm. Watch. Keep going. Boink. Now it's extended.
No, his finger was already extended.
Okay, you got to do the other angle then.
Okay.
The problem with the slow-mo is it's going to get blurry.
Yeah. I see his finger right there.
No, you don't.
But
There's
his
no finger.
finger's
It's literally
literally right there. His
it's
finger's
like this. It's like this. Look at this. Watch. Boom. Just went
No.
out.
Watch the other angle. Watch the other angle. It's not pointing
Yeah.
directly at him at first. It's pointing at the dude behind him. Watch. Let me skip forward. Okay.
Just watch the pointer.
Is that not his finger right there?
That looks like he's caressing him. He might be like this.
It's like
this
hey.
Because it's not pointed. Watch. You'll see it point. You'll see it go boom.
It's like, hey, what are you doing after the game?
Yeah. Hey.
No, but his fingers are already out. Look.
Watch. Let it play. And
oh no,
boink.
wait. No. That finger brushes off his helmet. Look, his finger is on his helmet because his finger goes this way, or it goes back this way. His finger was being. Oh no, actually, yeah,
He's flicking it.
No, he's flicking it.
He's nowhere near that guy. The coach is in front of that player.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong. You're right. Okay. So what if Dre Greenlaw threw a punch? Huh?
Well, honestly, if you watch it in full, like in actual regular speed, it's not a punch. It's more like like I said, like a swipe or a jab. I think it's more of like a warning to that guy, like, don't touch me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
If it was a punch, he would have landed it. If he wanted to punch him, he could have.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but Dre Greenlaw, I mean, he's got a history too of being extra physical. So, I've heard that he's got like I don't know hot temper, if you would call it, a little bit, but he seems very chill unless he's like provoked.
Well, he's a linebacker. I mean, they have to have a good, yeah, for real.
Yeah, PS says if it was a punch, he would have made it count.
Yeah, if he knew he was getting suspended, he's going to make it worth it.
Yeah, he's like, I do think if he does get fined, I mean, even if he doesn't get fined, I think he'll think twice before like putting hands on anybody. I think this is a good learning lesson for Dre Greenlaw.
You know what? I mean, it was high tensions. It's Philly,
Mm-hmm. It says, James Wilson says, yo, put the fourth quarter on at 5.5 minutes and watch the clock stop for 5 seconds. And then they start running it again. Way more curious. On which video?
He's saying like 5.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
Or 5.5 minutes into it. Can you put NFL Plus on?
Let me see if all right, let's see. NFL Plus. That way we can see what we can knock it out right now and see. Let's see. Watch.
Because yeah, I feel like this is definitely an interesting point. Also, I don't know if anybody else watched the Chiefs and Packers game. It sounds like the end of that game had some bad officiating.
Okay,
I didn't get to watch it, but
so let's see. It was with how much left? 550?
5.5, 5:30.
5:30 is what he. 5.5.
Put the fourth quarter on at 5.5 minutes. So I'm assuming 5.5 minutes left.
I wonder if this will block it. Are you able to see?
I mean, the clock doesn't matter. Well, it does matter. Well, put the comment down.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and I feel like speeding it up a little bit.
Okay, so that's an incomplete pass, 2nd and goal.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
5:39. Play clock's going, game clock isn't. I'm assuming it's going to be the next play. And I'm assuming at 35-13, they're going to go for it on 4th down. So incomplete. Oh,
No, that's a touchdown.
touchdown. Okay.
Okay, so let me see if there's any. I mean, did we get the right play, James?
He says back-to-back plays.
It was fourth quarter on at the 5. Maybe at 6.5. All right, so let me go back. Okay, let me just drag it back. Okay, that's too far. It's just tough because it's like to get it specific. We'll just go from here. And then I'm going to keep this kind of covered too because we don't want to get hit with like a copyright thing. Okay, he goes out of bounds, but the clock keeps running. Okay. So I do see that. And
Yeah.
I think it's because this player hits him backwards out of bounds. The clock keeps running if you go backwards out of bounds, I believe.
Really?
I'm gonna Google that.
I guess that does make sense because his forward progression is stopped in bounds. But like, I don't know. That's tricky on that play, because he's. I don't know. That's weird. I never even knew that.
Okay. Let's see. When does the clock keep going when you go out of bounds in the 4th quarter? Player goes out of bounds backwards. 4th quarter clock. The clock will continue to run if the runner goes out of bounds backwards after being contacted by a defender. So hopefully this answers your question. Hopefully this answers your question.
In other words, sorry. In other words, their forward progression is stopped in bounds.
Mm-hmm.
Just like any other, like a sack or something like that. When the quarterback hasn't even gone down and they blow the whistle because his forward progression's been stopped.
So James, you said that we're back at the 50-yard line, back-to-back plays. I feel like that might have been one of the plays you were referring to, but I'll go ahead and share the tab and again, let's see. Maybe if I go back a little bit. So this is when he.
Now we're at the 50.
All right. So we're just gonna watch it a little bit. You're able to see this, right, Mike?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll get back to discussing the game. But we really appreciate the comment, James. And all right. So he just went out of bounds and the clock stopped. Oh. Okay.
What? The fix is in, man.
Why is that? Let's see.
The referee's like, let's get this thing over with.
Oh, you know what? Does it have to be inside of a certain amount of minutes? How much?
I've always been confused about that.
Clock to stop in 4th quarter. For clock to stop on out of bounds. This is good. We're learning about the game. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. The NFL rule is this. Okay. Okay. If you go out of bounds, the clock will stop It will always stop so the officials can respot the ball until there are 2 minutes in either half. The game clock restarts on the official's ready for play signal. With under 2 minutes in either half, the game clock remains stopped until the snap. I feel like I notice it longer than 2 minutes though.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of give or take, you know?
Mhm.
I don't know. Maybe it's the referees getting it wrong half the time. I don't know.
Yeah,
Because I
I
feel
think it
like
has to
if
do
a
with the
player goes
amount
out
of
of
time on the
bounds,
clock.
yeah. Because I feel like, there could be a third quarter player where somebody goes out of bounds and the clock completely stops
Mhm.
until they snap the ball. But then again, I don't know. I'm going to start paying attention to it this week. That's for sure.
Yeah. James just absolutely opened a can of worms. We are investigating the NFL. We're going to call Las Vegas and say that they need to refund everybody their money because this whole
Hey,
thing has been rigged.
the NFL is going to send us a cease and desist letter.
Oh shit. Yeah, let me stop sharing the screen then. Let me stop putting the comment on. But James, we appreciate taking a look at that. I learned a lot, because you kind of have to think about that because like small things like that, certain people will pick up on it, and not everybody's looking out for it. Like you and I mean, we've been watching football for how long, and we had to like Google those rules and whatnot. I mean, it's a whole ordeal.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I have definitely noticed the second aspect. I've never knew about the backwards, going out of bounds backwards, causing it to be, continue the play clock. But within 2 minutes, other than being within 2 minutes, having it still play, even if you go out of bounds, like I always thought the clock stopped. So, or maybe it's kind of like college where if you go out of bounds, no, because they started immediately. The clock immediately kept going. Like I was gonna say, like maybe it's more like college where if you go out of bounds, it stops until like they said the ball is ready to be snapped. You know,
mhm,
and then the 2 minute drill, it's like the ball or the clock is stopped until the ball is snapped, not ready to be snapped. But
mhm.
in this case, it was like, okay, he went out of bounds, pause. All right, games, we're going. It's like it's I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, like PS said, that's a really good eye, James. So, and thank you for
Yeah,
pointing that out.
and thanks
Something
for checking
that,
us out.
yeah, something that Mike and I are absolutely gonna keep our eyes peeled going forward until we forget about it. No, just uh, there's just so much to like focus on during a football game. It's hard. It's hard to like. It's hard to keep focus on everything. You're looking at the offensive line, you're looking at the quarterback, the wide receivers, and then, there are people who just have a gift at looking at like, all right, that shouldn't have happened. So that's awesome. Going back to the game, Brock Purdy played very well. I believe he finished the game with another perfect passer rating, and this is against. I mean, the Eagles aren't the strongest pass defense, but they are absolutely a great, formidable opponent. And this was a statement victory by the 49ers. And they absolutely need to maintain focus because the last time they had a victory like this against an NFC East team that was like, had everybody talking about the game, they mentally clocked out for a couple of weeks. You know,
They
they
got they got to
they
their
got
heads
too
got too big.
cocky, they got too arrogant, and they didn't maintain focus. And then they lost to PJ Walker, they lost to Kirk Cousins, they lost to Joe Burrow was playing, but you know
But at home,
they should have
they shouldn't be
won
losing at
two
home.
of those three games at least.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Here's my thing. The Niners should be, and I would say they are, no matter what positioning they have in the NFC tonight, proved to me that they are the team to beat in the NFC. I think that the Eagles were that team. up until this point because of the record, right? And they were so consistent. And that was kind of my thing last week was like I can see the Eagles winning just because they're so consistent. Like they're 10-1, they keep winning no matter what, right? But also, on the other hand, they had not demolished teams like the
Mm-hmm.
Niners and Cowboys have, or the Dolphins, or the Ravens, or some of these teams that are clearly at the top, right?
Mm-hmm.
Along with the Eagles, so we think. Um, yeah, and the Lions, they've killed teams. But anyways, I think now it's pretty clear to me that the Niners are the team to beat, and that puts a target on them, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little unfortunate for them, although there's still time the rest of the season. But it is a little unfortunate for the Niners that they aren't the 1 seed right now. In a
Mm-hmm.
week from now, they could be, right? I want to find out right now, or maybe
The Eagles play the
are
Cowboys.
they play the Cowboys next week, and that's huge. Either way, if the Niners end out tied with both of them, they jump them
Niners,
because
yeah.
they took care of business.
As long as the
Um,
49ers keep winning and don't lose.
right. I honestly, the Niners need to win out, and they can. Um, I guess my question is, and maybe you know this: do the Niners or Lions currently sit in the second seed? Because I know they're tied.
That's an excellent question. Let me look it up. So
Because
NFC.
the Lions aren't playing as dominant right now, but they very well could win out. I'm sure they still have another game with the Packers, who actually beat them 2 weeks ago. I could be wrong though.
Niners are the second seed.
Um, okay, so the Niners have the advantage on them then. And like I said, I think the Niners very well can win out, whereas I can see the Lions, stinking up a game somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So all it takes, I mean, next week, if Dallas beats Philly, not only could the Niners suddenly be looking at home field advantage again, but also Philadelphia might not win their division.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia might not have a home game. And I would have to imagine you guys would much rather, not because you don't want to beat the top teams, but just for sake of matchups and, how well they match up with the Niners. I would have to imagine Niner fans would rather face Dallas in San Francisco than Philly, whether it's in San Francisco or Philadelphia. Um, it's becoming a real possibility. So
Mm-hmm. Uh, James Wilson says Jalen. I'm assuming Hurts. Played out of character tonight. Hard game to watch, but regardless, it's been a blessed season, and we will meet up for the NFC Championship. So, James, you're an Eagles fan.
that's what I was taking from the get go.
Yeah, no. That's certainly the vibes that I got from the beginning. So, um, I'm glad to hear. You seem to be very respectful in the comment section. There's no hostility. You know what I mean? It's a rivalry, but at the end of the day, it's just sports. And like Mike and I already said, we enjoy having you on the show, or in the comments.
Yeah, I think I said it last week, but maybe it was just a family member. But this is definitely the NFC Championship that everybody wants to see, and I would say that I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm being honest, I think Josh, you probably know where I feel on the NFC. I'm all in on the Lions just because I just want to see them do it,
Yeah,
after
he's
all the
kidding,
years
everybody. Shut up, Mike.
after all the years of their suffering, it's nice to see fan bases get rewarded, and I'd like that for me, with this team right here. 23, 22 years and counting since the Super Bowl, since a playoff win. So
So what you're saying
but
is you want all the AFC teams that have not been to the Super Bowl yet to make it ahead of the Raiders before the Raiders ever go back.
no. I'm saying I want my team to succeed most, but if my team isn't succeeding, which this year they're not, I'd much rather see the Texans go and win a Super Bowl than the Ravens or the Chiefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd much rather, or just get to the Super Bowl. I don't care. I just want a great game, but I also want a great game between teams that's not going to make me go, oh, they won,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Like that's how it's been. Like, I mean, I've talked about this before with you, but like Chiefs versus Niners a couple years ago, I was just sitting there like in the NFC and AFC championships, like, oh my god, no. This is going to be hell either way. It's either the Chiefs win or I'm going to have to hear from Niner fans for the rest of my life, or at least the next 3 years, like, oh yeah, we did it. I just have to sit there and be like, yeah, I'm happy for you guys. No, but
Oh man.
you know, I like to root for the underdog. That's all. So Lions, right now they're not the underdog, but in all of my life they have been. So I'd like to
I
see
do
them
remember
do it.
I do remember you saying in that 2019 Super Bowl, you're like, I'm not gonna watch the mustard and ketchup bowl.
Yeah, which I was kidding. Of course, I watched the game, and it was a great game. But yeah, I would kill to see like Lions versus Dolphins. You know how much fun that would be? And obviously for you that's different, but just two teams that have not been, one that hasn't been to the Super Bowl, I don't think, and the other that hasn't been to the playoffs in like almost 30 years, the Dolphins. Or maybe they've been to the playoffs, but they haven't won a playoff game or something like that. Yeah, just that's the type of stuff I like to look for. Like the Bengals, and they were in the Super Bowl, I was like, go Bengals. But anyway, but Philly versus Niners, absolutely the worthy championship game, and probably the one that everybody wants to have, and I would not be mad about.
Real quick, I'm gonna get to James's final thought, but I do want to say a couple things beforehand. I know Deebo Samuel was talking shit after the after the NFC Championship, and he said that the Niners would have won by multiple scores if Brock Purdy was healthy. And I mean, these teams are different now. So was Deebo right? He was right today, and this is the closest that we get to that answer. But do I think that this would have been the same result in that NFC Championship? Who knows?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I do appreciate that Deebo talked that shit and he played amazing. Like, it wasn't like, all right, Deebo had like 2 catches for like, 10 yards and, dropped like half his targets. Like, no, dude, he was super Deebo. He was like 2021 Deebo. And I really appreciated that. All right, rule number 1, if you are going to run your mouth, you must be able to back it up. That is absolutely, like, you better not be talking if you can't. And I really respect Deebo for at least he like called his shot. Number 2, Javon Kinlaw had a horrible game in the NFC Championship game last year. He was getting pushed around. I believe he finished with 2 sacks today. Javon Kinlaw played very well. I already mentioned Ambry Thomas played well. Kyle Shanahan adjusted. Brock Purdy played very well. The defense really, I mean, Jalen Hurts he kind of played with like a chicken with his head cut off a little bit. Like he had all day to throw on a lot of his passes. The pass rush was not getting home on some plays. Like, he would roll out of the pocket and he would just be like, standing there for a couple seconds. And, then he would almost, he made a couple good throws, and then other ones where it's just like, yeah, he kind of had to throw the ball away. The Niners played in a way where they didn't let the Eagles get into a rhythm, and, it was a really solid game overall. But one thing I do want to say is last week I was talking a little bit of shit about Nick Sirianni and how I didn't like him. But I have to say, after this past weekend, I take back a lot of what I said, and I have newfound respect for Nick Sirianni because I don't think that he was very animated, for this game. He wasn't like, doing the clown stuff that I've seen him do, or at least clown-ish stuff. I think I might have said that, he's like a clown. I think sometimes he can act like one. And I'm sure that if he was the coach of my team, I might like it. And if it embodied, or I might really dislike it. And I'd be like, you're representing the 49ers. Right. But Mike has said in the past that he represents Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Eagles perfect. The way the city, roots for that team and everything. Um, and after the game, he apologized to Kyle Shanahan for what happened. And I think there's a clip of him saying he wanted Greenlaw ejected, and you can kind of say it was fair because both got ejected. But at least he went up to Shanahan. There were no hard feelings. He apologized. And I have to say, I have newfound respect for Nick Sirianni after this weekend. And I, for the most part, take back what I said about, he has a punchable face, blah, blah, blah. A lot of people have said that. Maybe I just let the fandom kind of, get the best of me. But I'm sure that he's a fine dude. So.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day with Sirianni, he's really just he's defensive of his team, and I think he's very very not outspoken, but he's willing to walk the walk, but he also, or no, I'm sorry, he talks the talk, but he also walks the walk, or however you say it. He backs it up too, just like Debo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And James says that the Eagles fans love Nick and sort of laughing at the punchable face. Yeah, it's funny for me to say that because I'm not a very violent person and I don't punch people. So for me to say somebody has a punchable face, it's just kind of at the end of the day, I should be looking in the mirror because maybe I'm the clown for saying that. Right. James also says, final thought, the Falcons lost the Super Bowl in the fourth quarter in 2017. Anything is possible, and it was disappointing to see the clock draining in the biggest game of the year. I do wonder, when I get a chance, I'm going to look up the rule of when the clock, starts stopping when you go out of bounds. Because I wonder if that that's probably what it had to do with it. If not, that is pretty huge. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like if it was my team, I'd be like, man, what the hell is this? The clock's supposed to stop. Like I understand the frustration, James. So, it's not, I don't see it as you're being irrational. And then Tony is returning to the stream. Tony, I remember you. I believe you're a Cowboy fan, from Fort Worth. Congratulations to the 49ers on a superior win, showed their Super Bowl potential. The Cowboys are hoping to meet the 49ers in the playoffs. May the best team win. We talked about, Mike and I have talked about this, with the whole laugh now, cry later thing. Do I think the game might play out a bit differently if the Niners and the Cowboys met in the playoffs versus when they met in week 4? Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it would be the exact same result. But I couldn't imagine being a Cowboys fan and thinking and watching the Niners trample the Eagles and say, yeah, I want to see them again. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm hoping the Niners lose so that way you can get a team like the Lions and absolutely catch them off guard in the playoffs. And
I would say maybe the best way to put it is Cowboy fans want to beat the Niners in the playoffs. Hell yeah, you do, but I think the Niners are just pretty stacked, man. But I will give Dallas credit, specifically Dak Prescott. Honestly, he might be the MVP. He really might.
He's lighting it up.
Yeah, and I know I sent it in the group chat, but I drafted Dak and CeeDee Lamb in our fantasy league, and I traded CeeDee Lamb and I dropped Dak after week 3 or 2 because he was just not doing good at all. I traded CeeDee Lamb way later than that, but still. And it's if I had kept them both, because I had them both on my roster maybe week 7, right after their bye or before their bye, one of the two. If I just kept them and held them, I might be making the fantasy playoffs. But because I didn't keep the faith in them, I'm not looking good. But point being, it could be different. It could be different because if Dallas's defense were to play at their highest level, and if Dak and CD and company for the Cowboys offense were to continue to be as high scoring as they have been, because I'd say the weakness for the Niners defense is their pass defense. Obviously, their D line has gotten better, the pass rush has gotten better, but uh, I do think Niners versus Cowboys would be very interesting in the playoffs. But yeah, it'd be
Mm,
interesting.
like, um, Tony, just sort of responding says, "Good point. The boys just want a shot. The Eagles were beat, but they're still a great team." And yeah, I think Mike kind of laid it out. I think Dak Prescott. I mean, you can make an argument that he might be the MVP in the league, and I think Brock Purdy needs to be in that conversation. I don't know. I don't know if you can give it to Brock Purdy because only all right, he's like ranked first in several categories at the most important position in the NFL, and the Niners are, making all these statement wins and everything. Um, but he absolutely deserves credit for that. But you could also make the case that Christian McCaffrey should be the MVP of the NFL, or Tyreek Hill. Like, to me, there isn't a candidate for MVP that absolutely jumps out like Mahomes did a couple years ago, or
Yeah,
like
I, I think
Lamar did.
yeah. Oh yeah, Lamar's season was insane. I think honestly, looking at upcoming matchups for the Cowboys, Dak has a real shot to keep it consistent, and by like week 16 or 17, it's like, yeah, he's winning the MVP. You know, um, but if the Niners win out, it could be Brock Purdy. It could be, um, and he definitely does deserve, you know,
Credit
the credit, or just
to be in the conversation.
to be in the conversation. Yes, because what he's doing. Honestly, is special. But my thing with Purdy has always been, yeah, but his supporting cast, yeah, but his play caller. Whereas Dak, it's like he's just throwing to CD Lamb 15 plus times a game, and it's working. And Brandon Cooks is starting to get fired up too. And the run game really hasn't been that good. They started playing better like maybe the past 2 weeks, but the Cowboys,
Mhm.
like it's been Dak for them to me. Whereas the Niners, it's like, okay, come on, like McCaffrey, and just the supporting cast, everybody. Like that team
Mhm.
is that's why they're the team to beat to me. It's like because it's everybody. Whereas like the Cowboys, it's like, okay, they have a great defense. They have CD Lamb, but Dak right now
Mhm.
is just lighting it up.
I just want to add this. It's no shot at what Purdy's doing, and almost every single MVP has won with a good supporting cast. But Purdy, I think what might hurt his chances of getting votes for MVP is just the fact that it seems like everybody is playing a part in the 49ers' success. So I don't know if you could pinpoint him as the most valuable,
Yeah.
right? Because like if he went down, you still got McCaffrey, still got Debo, still got Kittle, all playing well. And I definitely see the argument. It's like, well, they didn't play at a high level, with other quarterbacks, and yeah, I mean that's true. But like a couple years ago, they went 13-3 with Jimmy Garoppolo. They were the 1 seed, and Jimmy Garoppolo is, I mean, I wouldn't even say fighting for his job right now. Like he's just getting paid to not play football. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it
That was the supporting cast. It was an overall team effort. Like, I think there's a difference between, like, let's say the Chiefs, winning 13, 14 games, and at the time they had Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelsey, but it's like, okay, but Patrick Mahomes threw 45, 50 touchdowns.
mhm.
It's like right now, Dak Prescott's probably on a pace for like at least 40 touchdowns. Not like
Mhm.
in the overall season, but I'm saying like the past like maybe 5 weeks. Like he's just gone nuclear.
Mhm. James says that Jalen Hurts wants the MVP. I'm sure Brock Purdy does too.
I'm sure
I'm sure
everybody
they all
does.
do. Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody does. But
And
I could
Hurts
see
good too.
Hurts getting MVP if he just lights it up the rest of the season and like, the Eagles win out and they get the 1 seed. Like I could absolutely see Hurts winning MVP.
Yeah,
Like I
definitely.
said, there's
Cuz
no I don't think there's a like a front runner
yeah, no,
for
that's
the
how it's been all
conversation.
season to me. Yeah, that's how it's been all season. There's not been a guy that's clearly the guy. Like he's easily MVP. Like I think yeah, with Hurts, it's like you add in the butt or I almost said butt fumble. What the fuck? The tush
The
push.
tush push.
Yeah, which is like the exact opposite of the butt fumble. Um, it seems like he's the only guy that can make it work to perfection, and that should be something to be said, But it's a game like tonight against the Niners where it's like, well, does he deserve it? You know,
I'm not gonna lie, I got mad when they lined up or when it was like the ball on the 2 yard line, going into the
they
goal
did it
line.
back to back.
I was no, I kind of got mad because I'm like, well, here we go. I was like, uh,
In my
I
opinion,
was
good for them.
yeah, I was just like, well, there's no stopping it. They just have a touchdown at this point. Like, why even play the next couple plays? Like, that's just kind of how I felt. And I was so
Mhm.
mad. I was like, hey, I have an idea for a thumbnail. I'm gonna Photoshop Jalen Hurts' face on Ice Spice, and then I'm gonna have him with a little comic dialogue bubble say, come push my tush, right? But
Hey,
that's just me being silly, right? Um, it didn't make a huge impact on the game, and I just want to see a way that teams are going to be able to stop the Eagles from converting it all the time. And I think somebody had like somebody was onto something on one of the plays. I saw I saw a Niner defender, I believe, pull on Hurts's jersey from behind. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Don't grab the inside of the shoulder pad, but grab the jersey. I don't think you get flagged for a horse collar, but if you pull him, you're getting his center of mass pulled back against him, so he's not going to be able to go forward.
hmm.
Or maybe you just grab you get two guys off the edge, grab from the shoulder pads, and try to limit the damage. Obviously, if it goes fast, like it happens quick, so it's like very you would have to like SEAL Team 6 it, but but that's just sort of an idea. But
Yeah,
James also says we got the best record with the hardest schedule. Jalen is setting records. Just saying, yeah, I can see the argument for Hurts as MVP. I think today hurt his chances, and Mike says it hurts so good. Um, and Tony says, I would not underrate Purdy. He still has to get the ball in the right hands. Jalen is greatness as well. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how they want to vote that at the end. I'm not even opposed to a guy like CJ Stroud getting it because Stroud is like lighting it up.
yeah. I think
But he's kind of cooled off a little bit.
a little bit. Yeah, I
But
think he'll
he
get
had
offensive
that
rookie of the year.
he had that like couple week stretch where it was like, who is this kid? Well,
Mhm.
I mean, most football fans knew who CJ Stroud was
Or
coming out of
more of
college. But
like, oh wow, he's like already that good. You know?
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Uh, James also says Jalen's hit list: Dolphins, Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills. Yeah, there's no question that the Eagles have managed to win games against great teams. Like there's no question of that. Um, we get no love even when AJ breaks Megatron's record. I don't even know what record, so that just goes to
That
show.
I know the record. That was the 5 games or maybe 6 games in a row of 125 yards receiving, which was insane.
Mhm.
Insane. That was
Didn't
like weeks
CD
2
Lamb do
through
like the same
6.
thing?
I feel like we would have
Something
heard
similar?
that, but he's been going crazy too recently. He's gotten like 100 yards and a touchdown, but he probably hasn't passed 125 in like one of those games.
Hmm. I'm going to get to this last comment here, and then we're going to resume our show. Um, let's see. Tony says, "Good show, guys. Enjoying it. 100% football lovers. That's what we love to hear. It's like I love it because we have four. We have four people sort of actively discussing right now football. Like we got me, Mike, Tony, and James right now. Like
Four
just kind of
different
going off
teams.
four different teams in the comments. So it just goes to show you don't need a football show focused on one team. If you focus on two, the rest will come.
Yeah. For reference, weeks 8 through 10, CeeDee Lamb had 12 for 158, 11 for 191, and 11 for 151. But then followed that with 6 for 38 and 4 for 53. Then last week, 12 for 116. So he didn't have 5 or 6 in a row like A.J. Brown did, whatever. Well, let me find A.J. Brown. But obviously, CeeDee Lamb has gone crazy, recently.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, yes, A.J. Brown broke that record, and it did kind of fly under the radar, honestly. Like, I remember seeing it, and I was like, see, there he is. Like, I mean, I was talking way earlier about, like, he's a top 5, 6 receiver to me. I mean, that would be a reason why. Like, he can do that stuff, and he can absolutely just outstrength any corner in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So weeks 3 through 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 131, 175, 127, 131, 137, 130.
Mm-hmm. James says that he's subscribed. He loves the content. James, we really appreciate it. We normally stream Mondays, but today we had to stream on Sunday, and I mean, look, it's brought an excellent football conversation with great football fans. We can all be respectful, coexist, and we all want the same thing, but for our own team. So we're kind of all selfish in that regard. But it's just very the stories within all the teams and everything. It's kind of cool. Like we're all on different paths going towards the same thing, which I think is awesome. And it all goes down in history. So I love it.
Yeah, I can't wait to have the same, or not the same, but another conversation with you guys, and whether it's the wild card, divisional, or championship rounds of the playoffs when my Raiders are out in Cancun.
Mm-hmm. Real quick. All right, last comment before we go to our next topic, because we're still on our first topic. This is the longest for one segment we've had, but I mean, this is great. James says, "How about the Chiefs losing to the Packers?" Mike is loving it over there.
Oh, I was
the Chiefs' downfall is something that Mike has been waiting for, and maybe the Chiefs are kind of on the trajectory that like the Niners were, where it's like they had a couple weeks skid.
Well, here's what I think about the Chiefs. I think what they did tonight proves exactly opposite of what the Niners did tonight. Like the Niners to me proved tonight, like they are the team to beat in their conference. The Chiefs are suddenly a game behind Baltimore and the Dolphins, and they beat the Dolphins, and that could come back in their favor. But Baltimore, man. And then also the Jaguars are playing tomorrow night against the Bengals. So unless something crazy happens and Jake Browning suddenly is actually good, the Jaguars are going to win that game. They're going to be a game ahead of the Chiefs. There's potential that the Chiefs could be the 4th seed. There's even potential that somehow this wouldn't happen. This won't happen, but there is still potential that the Broncos, who are only 2 games behind them, I think, could somehow overtake them. That won't happen. But still, the Chiefs being the 4 seed is so huge because they've had home field advantage like the past 5 years in a row. Like, please, for the love of God, can somebody else please represent the AFC?
Yeah.
Please. Like, I don't care if it's Baltimore. I'd rather see Miami. And I'm sure you probably would too, honestly. But and the Jaguars would be cool, but I just don't think they're there yet. I think I'm hoping for Baltimore or Miami, because I don't see any of the other wild card teams doing anything, right? Like Texans, Colts, Steelers, Browns. Like I don't see it with them. I think it's It's those top four, and I think the teams I take seriously are the Ravens and Miami. Their defense is getting a lot better right now. Miami's defense, they're playing a lot better. Really since the Raider game. But I hope to not see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
There are 3 teams that I think are legit. 4 teams that I think are legit. I'll put one just slightly below, and in fact, I'll say 5. No,
Come on,
I'm just
Oprah.
trying to think. No, I'll go with 3, and then I'll tell you the other 2 teams that are in a category together.
I'm going to go with 2.
The Ravens, the Niners, and the Eagles are all serious Super Bowl contenders, and most likely, I would assume that the Super Bowl is going to be represented by the Ravens and another set of those 2 teams. The other 2 teams I have are Detroit. Now, I think Detroit is an explosive team, but I don't think they're on the same tier as the other 3. And then since I mentioned Detroit, I kind of feel like Dallas is in the same boat of Detroit, where maybe they're not serious contender, or they're just not on the same level as the other 3. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that. I honestly can't wait to watch, and it's Sunday Night Football. I cannot wait to watch the Eagles and Cowboys game. That could, I mean, that's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. I think I'm pretty much ready to put the Cowboys up in the top 4, along with those other 3 teams that you mentioned. You said Ravens, Niners, Eagles.
Yes.
And then Lions and Cowboys.
Yes. In a tier below. And you could even throw in Miami. But
yeah,
no,
I think
I would
Miami,
even put Miami a tier below those 2 teams.
Yeah, well, okay. I think the way I look at it right now, like if I had to power rank the top 7, Niners 1. Okay. I think I'm probably going. It's either Ravens or Philadelphia at 2. I'm gonna go with Philadelphia because, oh man, the Ravens have had a really good run game though. But I just feel like DeAndre Swift is a bigger, weapon than anybody that the Ravens have at running back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go Niners, Eagles, Ravens. Fuck, the Ravens defense has been really good, huh?
The Ravens defense has been balling out.
All right, I'm changing that. Niners, Ravens, Eagles. Number 4 is going to be the Cowboys. And next week can change that. The Cowboys could quickly move up to 3. They might even move up to 2 for me next week.
Over who?
Over the Eagles and possibly Ravens.
Okay.
Because if they beat the Eagles next week, the NFC just got really interesting. Either way, it's interesting, but I just think the Cowboys could secretly be that team that they could do it. Because their defense is actually so good, and then now Dak's on fire, CeeDee Lamb's just taking over games, and then I think the next tier for me would be Lions, Dolphins, and then a tier below them would be the Chiefs. But the Chiefs are like that wild card team where Patrick Mahomes could just take over and win any game. He could go up against any of those teams, I think, and win. Just not 10 times out of 10, but he could beat any other team. As long as, Kelsey's healthy, his offensive line's healthy, and Andy Reid's his coach.
Yeah. We have seen the inconsistencies with the Chiefs. Now, I do want to bring it back to 49ers specific. So I just want to get back to our predictions because normally I would just kind of skip past this because it would be so clear cut. Obviously, you pick the 49ers, you're going to have green. I would give it to me because I said if no heavy rain. I don't think that the rain really had an impact that any of the, you know, it really didn't seem like it was raining throughout the game. It seemed like it rained before the game, and it
I
was
didn't see
clean.
any rain during the game.
I didn't see
Yeah.
any rain during the game, so we're good to give me the green on that.
Yep.
All right. I thought you were gonna be like, no.
No, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Pia's dad was very upset that I put a condition on my Niner pick. Yeah. I walk into Pia's house, and the first thing he said is, "Josh, you can't talk." You know. But yeah, I think we're ready to move on to the Seahawks. Just one more comment. Tony says health may tell the tale.
It usually does.
It always plays a big impact. Look at last year.
And look at the Super Bowl that the Chiefs lost to the Buccaneers. Like, I think both of their offensive tackles were hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that just made the difference.
Mm-hmm.
So
what's up, Fonzie? You just missed an hour and a half long 49ers versus Eagles recap. I advise to stay live with us. If you want to be a part of the show and contribute your comments live, bang, bang. Absolutely. We're about to jump into the 49ers versus Seahawks preview.
40 water.
Oh, yeah. All right. Niners are playing the Seahawks again. I don't think that we really have to spend too much time talking about this matchup. We just saw it like two weeks ago, and we really we talked about it and the significance that it carried. Really, the most important parts are going to be the 49ers just staying focused and not getting too high off of the Eagles' victory and not getting too full of themselves, because we've seen they can check out for a couple weeks, and you don't want to give up that one seed to. I mean, I'm mainly worried about Philadelphia. I just wouldn't want to travel back there in the playoffs. And the Eagles still maintain the one seed after the Niners' victory over them. And so the Seahawks right now, I mean, what's their record at this point? Are they 6-6, 5-7? Let me check that out.
We have a 4 or 5 way tie in the NFC at 6-6. It's actually within 2 weeks. It's gotten really interesting for like that 6 and 7 seed. Right now, the NFC North has 3 teams in, with the Vikings and Packers at 6 and 7. And then you also have 2 NFC West teams who are also 6 and 6, the Seahawks and Rams, who are just sitting outside looking in right now. So that race is going to get interesting. And honestly, I wanted to say this. I know that they're not a part of this conversation right now, but I think the team to look out for as far as the wild card race goes, actually there's 2, and I hope they both make it, just to make it more interesting. In the NFC, who do you think the 2 teams are that I would say are like, look out for them because they're getting hot? Of those 6 and 6 teams, so I'll give you the list. Right now, the 4 seed is the Falcons. They're at 6 and 6. They've overpassed the Saints. The Saints lost today to the Lions. You also have the Packers. The
Packers
Vikings.
are one of them.
The Packers are indeed one of them. The Rams and the Seahawks.
The Vikings?
I said Vikings.
They didn't play today.
No, they were on a bye.
Okay. Are your 2 teams the Packers and the Rams?
Yeah. The Rams are on I think they're on a little win streak. They just beat the Browns, and that's not saying much right now, but I think Stafford's starting to kind of get it going, and Kieran Williams looks really good in the run game for them. If they sneak their way in as like the 6 or 7 seed, they could potentially do a little bit of damage. Not in the sense of like making the Super Bowl or the NFC Championship, but they could upset somebody. They could upset – I don't think they could upset the Niners, but they could upset the Lions. They could upset – maybe the Cowboys win that division. They could upset the Cowboys. Do I think it happens? No. But I think they could. And the same goes for the Packers right now.
Yeah.
The Packers defense is playing lights out, I think, and I mean they just beat the Chiefs, and last week they beat the Lions. The Packers are playing really good, and if Jordan Love starts really getting it consistent, like they are interesting and very young. So,
yeah, I will worry about the Rams when we play the Rams. I'm not so concerned about them as I am, like the top teams in the division. But what would, I guess, worry me maybe later in the season would be like seeing the Rams if they're playing a must-win game and the Niners are, also playing
for a certain seed,
for a certain seeding.
Because they end the season with them, right?
I think
it's not.
Yeah,
it's not the Cardinals. I think it's either the Rams or it's not the Seahawks, and it's not the Cardinals, so it has to be the Rams.
Their last game is against the Commanders, actually. No, the Rams. Sorry, January 7th.
It's at Rams.
No, it's at Niners.
Okay.
So
right, well.
January 7th, is that the day that the Capitol was stormed, or was that the 6th?
I think it was the 6th.
Oh, because I was going to say Nick.
It's just random.
I was gonna say Nick Bosa is gonna have a field day.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. It's all jokes. But I mean, focusing on the Seahawks, I mean the 49ers just got to do what they did last time. They got to improve on some areas, not throw a pick six that's, right at the goal line, underthrowing like a short throw. I don't envision that Brock Purdy is going to throw a pick six in this game, or really I wouldn't be concerned about Brock Purdy throwing another pick six until like maybe we play the Ravens. But and that, I mean, a pick six is so specific and so like it's so rare unless you're Sam Howell or Jameis Winston,
or Ian Book.
I mean, really, the 49ers, they just have to take Ian Book. Fuck that guy. He almost lost me a championship. The Niners just need to take the high energy that they had and build off of, like, instead of getting full of themselves, they should get more hungry and realize that they still have a lot left to do if they want to ultimately accomplish their goal of winning the Super Bowl. Like, there is a ton left and there's a lot to play for. Like, people have mentioned that, like, people have mentioned before about like certain regular season games being certain teams' Super Bowls. I don't want the Niners to just treat this like they treated the Dallas game. And really that's my main concern. I'm not too overly concerned with Geno Smith. Geno Smith really struggled against the 49ers 2 weeks ago on Thanksgiving. I'm not overly concerned with DK Metcalf. I don't think that he matches up that well with the 49ers.
Ward had him on lockdown on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. DK Metcalf is one of those guys who, I mean, if you're physical with him, he's going to get frustrated. And once he gets frustrated, he kind of mentally checks out from the game, I kind of feel like. I don't think you're going to have to worry about Tyler Lockett, although he is the Seahawks wide receiver over the past several years who has given the 49ers, I feel like, the most trouble, because he'll just have those random sideline catches, right in inopportune times that it will just give the Seahawks a first down and help them get into a rhythm. But that really, from my memory, from what I do remember on Thanksgiving, I don't think it happened. I'm not too concerned with Jackson Smith and Jigba, to be honest. My feelings on him, but like fantasy football wise, I haven't taken a close look at JSN ever since like the first couple games. But I told you I did not like what I saw from him at all at the beginning of the season. He looked to me like he was either out of place, being misused, or both.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it could have also just been, it was like his first or second game, but
But Puka Nakua, on the other hand, it was a late round draft pick, and I loved what I saw out of him. I literally watched the Rams and the Seahawks game. I was looking at both those receivers because I wanted to see, all right, who am I going to like? Who should I keep? How do I feel about this guy? And I was like, man, Puka Nakua can block. He plays with such great tempo. Like this guy's like a workhorse. And then I just see Jackson Smith and Jigba like kind of jogging on routes, and I'm like, there's no way.
yeah, I think there's something to be said about the way that Sean McVay calls offense.
hmm
Because yeah, they've had some big performances this season on offense from certain guys.
hmm By the way, I do see in the comments, uh, uh, Fonzie, sort of talking to Tony. Uh, be nice to Tony. Tony has been absolutely great in the comments so far. Since before you were in here. Don't scare him off. Be nice, Fonzie. You know, uh, we don't have to like the Cowboys, but this guy's all right. This guy's all right. Um, on the defensive side of the ball, Bobby Wagner is back with the Seahawks, right? He's no longer with the Rams.
Sorry,
Or are
what?
you catching up with the comments?
Yeah, my bad. I just see Fonzie say salute to Mike, so I'm like, but
Oh,
what were you saying?
Bobby Wagner is with the Seahawks, right?
Yeah, he's back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think Bobby Wagner is still playing at a high level, but I think that he's sort of being shadowed by a defense that isn't playing too well. Like they just faced Dallas last week, right? And I mean, they almost beat Dallas, and I really not that I wanted them to beat Dallas, but I mean, shit. Maybe it's better if Dallas wins and possibly overtakes the Eagles, because I don't want any possibility of going back. Going
Well,
back to
here's the
Philly.
thing. I was talking to my dad about this before we hopped in. Like, the thing that's huge for the Niners, they took care of business against both Philly and Dallas. So if it comes down to a tie, the Niners have it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
here's the thing. If Philly just keeps winning and they get that 1 seed, and the Niners have to go to Philly in the NFC Championship and it's pouring down rain,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That changes
That's
everything.
that's not good. Now, it could very much pour down rain in California and in Santa Clara on NFC Championship Day, and if the Niners were to have the home field advantage, but it's also home field advantage, right? It's a little
Mm-hmm.
different when you're out of your element and you're in a hostile environment, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Uh, I would say that the players on the Seahawks that really jump out to me, like on their defense, have to be Devon Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen. Didn't I mean he's still playing, right? He didn't suffer an injury, or
no,
I
he
don't remember.
he did the Seahawks play this week?
Here, let me.
They
They
played on
did play.
they played against the Cowboys. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
he got a pick or something like that.
Here, let me see. Tariq Woolen. Sometimes I feel dumb
They
when I
played in
when I'm
like
like,
arguably
this
the
guy's
best
still
game of the
playing for this
week.
team, right? Uh, yeah,
No,
Tariq
he's playing.
Woolen.
He's playing.
Yeah, I mean, he and Devon Witherspoon are an absolute they're a pretty good tandem back in that secondary. The
Oh,
guy the guy who's not good, I don't think Jamal Adams is that good. I think he's
Jamal
like,
Adams is so overrated, and he did
yeah.
something on Twitter that was so uncalled for this past
Oh
weekend.
my god,
That
I
was so
didn't.
stupid.
Yeah,
Can you actually put up James' comment? I don't know if you saw it.
is
It's
it
who's
this
more
one?
likely? Yeah, dude. Great question.
hmm Who's more likely to have the better overall dynasty going forward, Eagles or 49ers? My gut would tell me that the 49ers are more likely to sustain their success, given that Brock Purdy is very young And the success kind of precedes him. And yes, the 49ers weapons are aging, but the Niners have first round picks to spend again. They still have Christian McCaffrey, and Ayuk is young. So if they're able to keep Ayuk, they still have a weapon there as a receiver. Shanahan, I don't know if I trust him to get the right weapons on offense, but he seems to be he and John Lynch have seemed to be doing a great job of assembling a team. They do miss on like very questionable draft picks, but I mean, Trent Williams is going to be gone in a couple years too. But where I feel like the Eagles may not be a better dynasty going forward is the fact that they're having so much trouble on defense right now. Jalen Hurts is playing. He's playing well. I don't know if he can take it to another level. Like he played as well as any quarterback like could in the Super Bowl last year, and they didn't win. They put up like 35 points in the Super Bowl and didn't win, and that's because the Chiefs put up 38. Another thing that worries me about the Eagles going forward is that Fletcher Cox is getting old, and Jason Kelce is getting old, and then is it Brandon Graham, the linebacker? He's also getting old. They're still. I mean, they've been on the team for like 10 years.
Yeah, no, those two, Cox and Graham, have been like Eagles for life.
Yeah,
and Kelce. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's tough. Man, it's such a good question.
Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are still. I mean, AJ Brown might be a little bit older. Devontae Smith, I still think, is like pretty young. Like
yeah, I I think. I mean, you're gonna have Jalen Hurts, who I think is a top 5 quarterback in the league, probably to me top 3 to me. And then you pair him with those 2 receivers. Their offensive line obviously isn't getting younger, but nobody else's is either. Like, yeah, you're gonna lose Kelce probably after this season, honestly. Granted, the same can be said to me about Trent Williams. Like, I think he won't retire after this season, but I could see him retiring after next season because he's like, isn't he like 33?
Who?
Trent Williams.
Trent Williams. He has thought about retirement. He is currently Trent Williams' age. He's 35.
Wow, he doesn't play like it. I mean, he could be like similar to the guy who was on the Cowboys. What's his name? I think he's right tackle right now. He used to always be on the Eagles. He's always Jason Peters, I think. He's like 41 right now, and he's still playing. But he's kind of hopped around teams the past like year or two. But,
are you talking about the guy on the Steelers?
I don't think he's on the Steelers. He was on the Cowboys like a year or 2 ago. I don't know where he is right now, but I saw him playing. I was like, oh my God, he's still going. Mm-hmm. It might have been the Cowboys. I just think, okay, like Purdy is, he's playing like a top 5 quarterback right now. For some reason, I'm still like hesitant to call him that, and I feel like there are a lot of names you could throw out there and be like, yeah, they're probably better than him. Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I don't know if I'd say Tua. That's tough. I'd probably say Purdy right now. I know there are other guys I'm forgetting. Herbert.
Of like top quarterbacks?
Yeah, like top quarterbacks that are better than Purdy.
Oh, better than Purdy? I can name you. Mahomes is better than Purdy. Josh Allen's better than Purdy. Justin Herbert's better than Purdy. Joe Burrow's better than Purdy.
Hello, yeah. And Lamar.
Lamar Jackson is better than Purdy.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen, yeah, I would say Jalen Hurts.
But maybe
Today he
that
wasn't.
might be
Today he wasn't better than Purdy. But
yeah, but that's situational and matchup based.
you
I
flip
think
the roles. You
yeah.
flip the teams, and Jalen Hurts probably wins this game too. So
Yeah, I if you put Jalen Hurts on this team, I would put money on the Niners right now, straight up.
mhm.
Um, I see the Eagles might have the better young core than the Niners do. I think between Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, Jalen Carter, who might be the next great defensive tackle in the NFL. You also have his buddy from Georgia, Jordan Davis. Um, they have Hassan Reddick. I don't know how old he is. Um, their corners are getting older. They have I love Sidney Brown. I was so in on the Raiders getting Sidney Brown at safety in the draft a year or two ago or whatever, or this year, whatever year it was. But I think they have definite, a good solid core. It's such a tough question. It's really hard. I think it's pretty close, but
Mhm.
I might lean Eagles just because of Hurts and the receivers, and I feel like the Eagles are very good at making sure that their trenches are good to go. You know,
Mhm.
so
It is a fantastic question, one that I don't know the answer to, but it's very interesting. I'm hoping it's the Niners. Obviously you're hoping it's the Eagles, but time will tell. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, we plan on keeping this podcast, for long term. So maybe we'll point back to this question and then see a couple years down the line, like, oh yeah, we thought this team was going to be better. Turns out it was neither of them. So, um, let's go ahead and catch up on comments, because like really, like for the Seahawks game, I really feel like it's a repeat of 2 weeks ago because of how close it was. The Seahawks just might be a little bit more desperate. Niners might be. I mean, it really feels like a load got taken off their shoulders beating the Eagles today. So
yeah. But
um,
I'd also say it puts a massive target on their back. When the playoffs start, everybody's going to want to beat the Niners, and they'll want to
well,
be whoever's the 1 seed. It could easily be the Eagles, but I think everybody realistically that's watching football like watches these games against the Cowboys and the Eagles where they demolish them, both of them, and
mm.
you've got to sit there and go, yeah, that's the team to beat.
So check this out. When it comes playoff time, every team wants to play whatever. I mean, wants to beat whatever team that they're playing.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, I it's just the
I don't think that there's going to be a team. Let's just say the Niners lose out and still make the playoffs, and then the Niners are not the team to beat. I don't think that there's going to be a team being like, oh, I don't want to beat the Niners this week.
no, no matter what, you want to beat your opponent. But I guess my point is like specifically with the Cowboys and Eagles, if you guys go up against them, and I feel like I could almost guarantee you will go up against at least one of them. Um, they're gonna want that so bad, so bad, and the Niners are gonna want it so bad too, obviously. But like the Niners can look at it as like a little bit of revenge towards the Eagles because hey, they beat us in the NFC Championship. They talked all that shit. But like the Cowboys going up against the Niners, like the Niners have no reason to be like, I hate this team. The Cowboys have reason to be like, God damn it, let's beat this fucking team, because they've kicked our ass, they kicked our ass, they kicked our ass. They stomped on us, they talked their shit. We want to be able to do that back to them so bad.
If the 49ers play against the Cowboys again in the playoffs, I'm telling you guys right now, invest in TCL, invest in Samsung, because some televisions are going to be broken, whether it be one way or the other. But typically I'm just kind of playing off the joke about like how every year the Cowboys like a whole like fresh batch of memes just comes out of them breaking their TVs,
Yeah.
and it's never not funny. I'm
Oh, it's always funny.
sorry. Yeah, it's
I
so
feel like
funny.
I've seen
I
one
know
with a
you're
Raider
a Cowboy
fan.
fan in the comment section, but
Yeah.
it's never not funny. Like when Cowboy fans are breaking their TVs, and I don't think you strike me as one of those people. So I'm not talking about you. But let me go ahead and take some comments here. So let's see. Fonzie said,
Once we get off the comments, we'll do our predictions.
yeah, I know, bro. I'm sorry. It was my in-laws' birthday. Well, happy birthday to your in-laws. You know, shout out to them. Celebrated. Everyone in the NFL said Cowboys. Everybody said the Cowboys were our Super Bowl. Both wins seemed so lame that if that's what we needed to go through, we got this hands down. I don't know if I just botched that while I was reading it. Both wins
Well, I
seemed
think
so.
maybe because of the way that the Niners acted after the Cowboys game, maybe.
Or maybe it's the fact that like they propped up our opponents so much and like we demolished both of them.
Right. Yeah. Or it could be the other way around of like coming into that game, that would have been the Cowboys Super Bowl,
Mm-hmm.
at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But
Tony offers some pretty good insight. Seattle's better than what the record shows. I do kind of agree with that. I don't think Seattle's a bad football team. They have had, I feel like, a pretty tough schedule this year, and they've lost a couple like close games that, I mean, there's a couple games they really shouldn't have lost. They shouldn't have lost to the Rams week 1. They absolutely should not have. And the
well, that
fact that
one's
they
biting
did,
them.
I was happy. You
Right.
know.
That and right now with the race with the Rams and everybody else, it's going to bite them.
Mm-hmm. So let's see here.
I'm loving all the comments, by the way.
Yeah.
Just everybody being in here.
Let's see here. We already got that question. Fonzie said he didn't mean to be mean. That's a big if. People forget. Party was coming. 5 wasn't. Okay. Jalen Carter, Rookie of the Year.
I'm assuming he's saying that because I said I'm probably leaning Eagles on the longer dynasty. The only person I'm hating is Jimmy G. No.
What are you talking about?
I'm
That's
so
your
over that
favorite.
guy.
That's your favorite player of all time. If the Raiders somehow make it to the playoffs, win a Super Bowl, you will be thankful that Jimmy G came to the Raiders. Won't you?
If he caused it, yeah.
No.
But that's
He
the
caused
opposite.
the chain reaction.
Oh,
He got McDaniels fired. He got Ziegler fired, and then all of a sudden they go all the way and win it. Wouldn't you
I
be
did.
thankful that the Raiders made the mistake in signing him?
I saw a TikTok recently of this guy explaining how the Houston Texans' old coach, was it Bill O'Brien? I think that's
Yes.
him. The guy that traded DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes.
How he is the reason why the Texans have, reclaimed, what would you call it? Being good, I guess. Because if it weren't for him trading DeAndre Hopkins and then everything that happens with Deshaun Watson, which first, before he got his allegations and everything, he just said, I don't want to play for this team, right? Because it was that bad.
Mm-hmm.
At least I'm pretty sure that was first. But if it weren't for all of that, you wouldn't have CJ Stroud, essentially. It's like, it's always a tumbling, rolling ball effect, whatever you call that, a snowball effect. So yeah, I'm waiting for all of these stupid things that happen to this Raider team to finally lead to some good. That's why I keep saying I just want them to have a shitty season just once, earn the first or second overall pick, and get your CJ Stroud. That's what I've ever since our first episode, I've said that. Now, granted, you can always trade up and hopefully get the right guy, but it's going to cost you your future, at least in draft pick, or draft capital, So if
Mhm.
you're going to do that, you need to have a team that's ready to support that. The Texans, nobody thought they did, but clearly they did. I think if the Raiders just got like a defensive tackle and a corner and maybe another offensive lineman, and yeah, I think you could support a quarterback, but that's
So you're
wishful
asking for an
thinking.
arm and a leg.
I'm asking for a little bit of an arm and leg, and yeah, I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo alone is going to be the sole reason why blah 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 blah. But him getting McDaniels fired is a good point. I will say that. So I'll thank him for that. But I also still am going to have a hard time with the whole restructuring his contract and all that shit. It's just, oh my god.
Mhm.
Anyways,
Real quick, this is a pretty good comment by James. I have confidence in my team. I would like to hear about the 49ers young players coming up. That is
I saw
actually
this. I saw this comment. I did want to go on about this. So go ahead.
so I don't know if you would consider Brandon Ayuk still a young player. But he's a guy. Hold on. He is. I would, if I had to guess, he's 25. Brandon
Yeah.
Ayuk, age.
I mean, I'm assuming he's
He's
probably talking about
25.
guys. I'm assuming he's probably talking about guys that like he
Like
wouldn't know,
rookie.
like Jair Brown or something like that, or like a guy that we didn't mention about the Eagles is like I think his name's Jordan Mailata, right?
Mm.
Like players like that, like that don't really get the recognition, but they're young guys that are going to be around probably for a while. At least I think he's young.
That is actually a very important point when it comes to the
Hmm.
whole dynasty question, because
At least, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
in a couple of years, it's gonna like start to show whether you drafted good or not, or
Yeah,
well or not.
and the Trey Lance trade kind of hurt that for a bit, but it also, I guess you could say, allows for them to trade for a Chase Young this year, for salary cap reasons, right? I get like my whole point with like picking the Eagles is I think their offensive and defensive lines are well set up for the future. They just have a question at center. I don't remember if they drafted a center this year or not. I feel like they did, but they might not have. But regardless, like their offensive line is still pretty well set, on the outside of that. And then again, Jalen Carter, should have been a Raider, but if he were a Raider, he might be out of the league by now. So
yeah. So guys that kind of stand out to me in terms of like young players coming up. I don't. The NFL isn't necessarily like a developmental league, but there are certain guys who are young that I think are still improving. Like Aaron Banks has been, really holding it down at left guard ever since the Niners let go of Laken Tomlinson. He ended up signing a big contract with the Jets. He followed Robert Saleh, followed the money. The Jets were willing to give him a big contract. The Niners weren't. And Aaron Banks was able to sort of redshirt like his first year and get his body where it needed to be in order to take over the starting position as a second year player. Jair Brown seems to be playing very well in the replacement of Talanoa Hufanga. So, we'll see how it goes when Hufanga comes back, and really if he's going to be missing some speed after that ACL injury, like he was already like, not super fast, which is why I think part of the reason why he fell in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to him. I think it might have been James or it might have been Tony who said, but like an injury can change everything, or all it takes is an injury to change everything.
yeah.
Other guys like we've got Ronnie Bell is a guy that doesn't get talked about a lot, and it's kind of too early to tell to see whether or not he will have any sort of impact, long term on this team. But I mean, he had this one game in the preseason where he absolutely he kind of took over. It was he and Trey Lance is now a Cowboy, so you wouldn't get that pairing. But let's just say a guy like Brandon Ayuk moved on from the Niners. who knows if Ronnie Bell would step up or if the 49ers would be able to replace Brandon Ayuk with somebody else. So Ronnie Bell would be a name to look out for. I would say that Ronnie Bell has been one of the receivers that has been young, that has stood out more than, let's just say, Danny Gray. Or, I'm trying to think of other receivers that the Niners have drafted. But, I mean, really, it's Ayuk, Debo, and Jennings, and then it's Ray, and then Ronnie Bell, I think, has a touchdown this year, so at least there's that. Other than that, Jordan Mason doesn't get a lot of talk, but he's actually a really good running back.
Elijah Mitchell was playing good today too.
Jordan Mason still gets like 5+ yards per carry, so he's killing it. Just doesn't get a lot of playing time because he gets overshadowed by Christian McCaffrey, and Shanahan doesn't want to do a committee. And
I don't know why. I mean, I get it with McCaffrey, but it's like for sparing him the excess workload, it's like against some of these teams coming up, like the Seahawks game, you could just run all over them. Just own the time of possession. Just do it 2019 style, and you could kill them. Not like 42-7 or something, but like 24-3. You would just, or maybe, yeah, I'd say like you could do that. Just running the ball, not just running the ball, but like 2019, just own the type of possession, run the ball. The 3 top guys on the depth chart can all do it.
I wonder if Shanahan sort of believes or is under the philosophy that if you aren't in close games, then, maybe close games are when guys get hurt because, you have to play that much harder for every single snap. And so just using McCaffrey and having him carry the load will get you out to a high enough lead to where the game's not really that competitive and guys just sort of give up and you're not going to get injured. I don't know. That's something to think about. Like, if you're getting dogged by like 30 points, you're going to play as hard as like, let's just say it's a 1 possession game.
Right.
Like, in a perfect world, you should be playing 100% every snap, but these guys, like, this is their job. Think about like you at your daily job, and let's just say, all right, well, today's already fucking going good. I mean, today's already like going shitty. Let me just try and get through.
Make
the
it worse. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always that. But yeah, if I think of any other names, if you check out another live stream, we can talk about it. Let's see here.
I mean, I would say Ambry Thomas and Jair Brown would be 2 guys I'd probably nominate. But
All right. Just sort of skimming through the comments. A lot of these are Cowboys oriented. Seems to be a little back and forth between Tony and Fonzie. We're gonna go ahead and give our predictions because it is getting late and I have to catch a flight in a couple hours. Let's see here, Mike. I'm gonna go ahead and let you go first because we sort of have it set up where the other person gives the prediction first. Do you think the Seahawks are going to pull off this upset?
I did see in the comments that Tony says that this could be a trap game, and I think I don't predict that. I don't see the Seahawks winning this game, but I think this could be a big monkey off the shoulders of the Niner fans because you put it pretty well earlier where, the Niners beat the living shit out of the Cowboys, and then the next 3 weeks they just stunk it up because maybe that was just what they were looking forward to, and then felt all high and mighty or whatever you want to call it, and then they go on and face these other teams and just completely overlook them. I don't know. But coming off this Eagles win, which was huge, and beating the Seahawks 2 weeks ago, like handily, do they overlook the Seahawks a little bit coming into this game? I think, honestly, even if they do, they're at home. Yeah, honestly, I just saw Fonzie's comment. If you could stop DK, which Ward was just putting him on lockdown on Thanksgiving. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just like anytime they face off in prime time, every time it's the Seahawks and Niners, I notice Chardavius Ward,
Charvarius.
Charvarius, sorry. Just it's like it's almost like he has a game breaker in NFL Street or something. Like he just does not let DK Metcalf do anything.
No, the guy who's got a game breaker in the NFL, I mentioned this the other day, is Dak Prescott. Before every single play, yeah, here we go. Before every single snap, and it's obnoxious. It's like I'm just thinking about NFL Street before when you get a game breaker and you do the little cutscene. Yeah, it's time, game time,
game time.
I'm just I'm like, all right. Maybe Dak Prescott's got a game breaker before every snap because he's lighting it up. But we're not talking about the Cowboys right now. Yeah.
At the end of the day, if this were in Seattle, I'd have a little bit different feeling. But this game being in San Francisco, I think right now is the time. Coming off the Eagles game, coming off 2 weeks ago against the Seahawks, the Jaguars game a couple weeks ago, the Niners are hot. They are on fire, and I don't see it stopping. I believe this Niners team is looking at it 1 week at a time. Admittedly, I'm at the point now where I'm just looking forward to the Ravens game on Christmas. That'll be interesting. That's like the last, depending on how seedings work out and what needs to happen at certain weeks, but that game is what's really interesting me right now. I think leading up to that game, I'm probably picking the Niners the rest of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just reading Fonzie's comment right now about hold on. I saw after the game that DK had an injury before facing the 49ers. When they played the Cowgirls, he was good. I hope Crosby's pressure can change that. I'm assuming Bosa's. I'm assuming you mean Bosa, but since we're like a Niner and Raider show, you're confusing the two or misusing the two. Yeah, I don't know. I think Charvarius Ward can lock down DK Metcalf again, healthy or not. I think he mentally checks out when he gets manhandled a little bit. So, I mean, unless the referees are going to be like calling very ticky tack calls, for most of the game and be calling holding and then this game starts to really favors the Seahawks. I'm also picking the 49ers, and I don't really think that there's much that can happen in the next week that would stray me away from that. I'm pretty confident that the Niners are going to win. Mike, are you ready to move on to the Raiders versus Vikings? Or here, let's take a couple.
Yes, I am.
Let's take this comment real quick. James says Seahawks versus Eagles. I said Seagulls, my bad. Seahawks versus Eagles were changed from Sunday to Monday. I may end up going now as the date changes ruin people's weekends. Oh, yeah, you might be able to get tickets for cheap. You might.
And you're an Eagles fan in Oregon? Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Might as well.
I would go if I were you. I think,
Yeah. That's going to be a big game for both teams, honestly.
Yeah, because we're predicting that the Seahawks are going to be coming off a loss. They're going to need that game.
You should absolutely go to the Seagulls game.
I'm never going to live that down. All right, Raiders versus Vikings, Mike. I'm going to go ahead and let you spearhead this, and we'll wrap up the show with this.
Seagulls versus Raiders.
Did I say Seagulls?
No, you didn't. You didn't.
Okay, I was like, damn.
Yeah. No. I'm having such a hard time with this game. They're both coming off the buys. They both had week 13 bye weeks. The Vikings definitely need this game more, but I'd also argue that like Antonio Pierce really needs this game. He needs all these games moving forward. He's literally he's coaching for his job. He has the head start on any other coaching candidate. But Antonio Pierce is going to need to get some wins racked up. He started off hot. He's since lost 2 games, to the Dolphins and Chiefs. I have such a hard time with like predicting this game. The Vikings have been pretty good against the run. By pretty good, I actually mean like pretty damn good. I feel like their offense has been kind of like back and forth, and now they have Joshua Dobbs, who I'm pretty sure is going to be starting. I don't see why he wouldn't be, right? Now they played a horrible game against Chicago, which actually I'm just now remembering, last week on Monday Night Football, right? And the Raiders, have been keeping themselves in some games against really tough opponents because of their defense. Specifically, the Miami game, was very impressive. And then every game before that, honestly, they've at least kept themselves in it to a point. And then the Lions, took over in the third, fourth quarter and just went away with it. Same for the Chiefs, right? And then the other big thing about this game, which completely makes this a toss-up for me, is Justin Jefferson's going to be back, right? He's healthy. He's finally going to be activated off IR and making his return in Vegas against the Raiders. And obviously, we have not seen Joshua Dobbs with Justin Jefferson. And then, on the other hand, you have the Raiders, who, again, are coming off the bye, as well as the Vikings. My biggest gripe lately with the Raiders have been their inability to adapt mid-game, because they seem to start off really well scripted, and then by the second quarter, their offense just flatlines for at least most of the game, if not all of it, specifically the Chiefs game. So I guess that's my big worry is, or I guess my big question. Do the Raiders coming off the bye with extra time to, pre-script this game and come into this game with a really well-planned and hopefully well-executed game script, as well as, mid-game, what would you call them? Mid-game adjustments, right? Yeah. So do they succeed in that, or do the Vikings, who are also coming off a bye, kind of have the advantage because maybe their coaches are a little better at that right now, at adapting and adjusting mid-game? Because that's my big thing. It's like if the Vikings weren't coming off the bye, I'd probably be picking the Raiders, like for sure, but I'm having a really hard time here. What do you think, or how are you feeling?
I was prepared to pick the Vikings, but I really started thinking about it. Apparently, the Vikings are pretty close to benching Joshua Dobbs for Nick Mullins. And that's how you know you're having problems. I anticipate that Joshua Dobbs is going to play. I think that he's going to start. He has been struggling over the past couple weeks. How is Max Crosby doing?
Oh man, that was something I wanted to bring up in this pod. Literally the day after we had our podcast last week, and we talked about like what needs to be done in the bye week and all this stuff, and like Chiefs recap. The next day, they came out with a picture of his knee being swollen on game day against the Chiefs. and he was doubtful to play and everything, right? His knee was like huge, compared to his right knee, right? I would like to think that he's all good now. But I also saw a tweet that there was like this Twitter doctor, and let's be honest, we can't really trust Twitter doctors. Just it seemed like this guy was kind of assuming, unless he saw something that I just didn't, and nobody else is talking about. But let me see if I can find it. He
It
was
could have
saying
been
something
life-threatening,
about.
right?
I don't think it was life threatening. I mean, you're probably thinking about the swelling, but this was before the swelling picture. This was before the Chiefs game even happened. Like this was probably a day or two before. Hopefully I liked it. Or maybe not. Fuck. I think he mentioned something about arthritis of his knee. Let me see. Crosby. But yeah, I'm not gonna find this thing. Okay, whatever. But he made it sound like it's a very big deal, and I was like, that's not what I want to hear. That's not what I want to hear about our literally best player who gives me hope, right? I don't know if they even practiced this past week, because I'm pretty sure they haven't, because I feel like I haven't seen any updates from like insiders about like, oh, this player practiced this week. Like I'm assuming the bye week they just had off, rest time, right? So this week will be telling as far as practice goes. I'm assuming they start practicing tomorrow. I would certainly hope that he plays. And honestly, if he was doubtful to play against the Chiefs and then he gets a bye week, he's going to play, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that picture of his knee swelling was just crazy. Let me see if I can
It
actually
was
find that at
huge.
least.
So I really feel like Max Crosby will be a big factor in this game. Since we haven't heard news, I would assume that no news means good news for him. And I expect him to play in this game. How do you feel about the way that the defense has sort of been doing overall over the past like 2-3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean the Dolphins game was impressive as hell. Also, I sent you the tweet with a video showing it from his podcast apparently.
Mm-hmm.
The Chiefs game, first two drives, perfection, and then it just fell apart, right? But what I said after the Chiefs game was like, against these pretty high octane offenses or quarterbacks, whatever. Yeah, I'm not really expecting them to shut them down all game, right? That's where you need a better offense to be able to keep up with those teams. And right now, they just don't have that. And it's not because Aiden O'Connell sucks. It's because he's young, he's inexperienced, and so is the coordinator that's calling the plays, right? So, and they completely had to switch up their offensive scheme after firing Josh McDaniels. We're essentially still in training camp as far as the offense goes,
Mm-hmm.
since McDaniels has been fired.
Real quick, we have breaking news. Are you ready for this?
I'm pretty sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Max Crosby's feet pics just leaked. No, I'm just playing. It's horrible. Almost time for bed. But yeah, this is like the swelling. So as you can see,
That's on game day, apparently.
yeah. No, you can clearly see that his left knee is like absolutely yeah. It's I think if you were to poke a needle right here, it'd pop with all this fluid. Yeah.
Potentially, yeah. So that's what he was going
And
through.
he played on that, right?
He played on it, yeah. So, God, I still want to find that one thing. Oh, septic knee joint. Oh wow. Okay, I guess you were right. I mean, this is from. I'll send you it. Fuck it. Coming in right now, so you can go ahead and put it up.
Yeah, this is the one that I saw.
Okay. That wasn't the one that I saw, but continue.
So Medspiration. I don't know what specific doctor or if this even comes from a legit doctor. We never know sometimes on the internet. But it says hashtag Raiders Max Crosby revealed yesterday that he played through a septic knee joint. I'm assuming that means sprain. This condition can be limb-threatening and sometimes life-threatening. No joke. Breaking this down so hashtag Raider Nation and hashtag NFL fans can truly appreciate the type of dog that resides within Mad Max. So I'm assuming we're fine to play the audio with this.
My knee had some fluid buildup. The shit was blown up like a balloon. Like I felt like I was dying. Then I get a call and they're like, okay, we need to go to the hospital in the morning. We found there's bacteria in my fluid.
Based on what Max Crosby says in this video, he had a condition that's limb-threatening and even life-threatening. It's called septic arthritis. Let's break this down. This sheath of tissue here is known as the joint capsule or synovial membrane, produces a special fluid to lubricate the joint and prevent wear on cartilage, like the meniscus, providing a virtually frictionless surface for the bones to glide against. The highly vascularized joint synovium lacks a limiting basement membrane, so it's actually prone to infection. Bacterial invasion of the synovium and joint space leads to an inflammatory process called septic arthritis, which is an orthopedic emergency that can cause significant joint damage. And some data show there's about a 7 to 15% mortality rate, which means he literally put his life on the line for Raider Nation last week.
My knee.
Yeah, that's crazy if it is like all scientifically backed up. Like, I mean, for all we know, like, what if this is just like a fake doctor making up like a thing, like, oh, Max Crosby's suffering from ligma.
Well, the word septic is not a good word to throw out there, so. But either way, I mean, that is very serious, based off of that, I guess we'll call it prognosis, I don't know. But just the fact that it was as swollen as it was and he played on it that day, it's like, dude, insane. I'll never question his drive, ever. I don't think anybody ever will. But, and granted, I mean, they're still in the playoff race, I guess. Like, realistically, they're not, but,
well, the Browns could be falling out of it.
Yeah, potentially. But just, good on him for, man, I'm not giving up. This is, I have to play, essentially.
Yeah, so I guess to wrap up the Raiders and Vikings, I mean, at least my prediction, I don't know, man. It's a tough one.
It's
but I'm
really
gonna go ahead.
Match.
I'm gonna pick the Raiders, and the reason why is because you get those highs and lows from a rookie quarterback, and O'Connell did play bad against the Chiefs.
He played well.
It wasn't enough to beat the Chiefs because Mahomes can turn it on whenever he wants to turn it on, and he just decided to against the Raiders. But you're not playing against Mahomes this week. I do really like Joshua Dobbs, but he hasn't been playing as well. He had 3 or 4 picks in his last game.
I think 4. It might have been 4.
Yeah, it might have been 4. One was at least one was tipped. So you give him that, but you can't give him a pass on all 3. 4 picks is a lot. The Raiders defense overall has been playing pretty well this year. All things considered. The Raiders still have Devontae Adams. They still have Josh Jacobs. And Jacoby Myers is still on the team. He hasn't been, tearing it up like he was. Yeah, like he was, but he's still on the team. Renfro's getting a little bit more involved. Mayer. I don't know. Give me the Raiders. Give me the Raiders in this game. And if they lose, I'm sorry, but I don't think Antonio Pierce is going to have a job next year. I think he's risking losing the locker room, losing to the Vikings this week.
Yeah, even if they lose, I don't see him really losing the locker room like that. I just think he can lose the faith of Mark Davis, And I
Mhm.
think it would be less about losing this game, but more of like the overall. How did it go when the season's over and it's like, let's really look at this. It's going to be like, well, how did it go for him? And be like, you look back on, man, three straight losses when we really needed some wins. Like, yeah, it's tough. But I mean, the whole again rookie quarterback, rookie coordinator, that's really going against him. I
Mhm.
have big thoughts about what the Raiders should do at coach and GM, but I'm going to save it for an episode down the line. Um, Raiders versus Vikings, man, it's just tough. If Justin Jefferson weren't playing in this game, I'm picking the Raiders. Oh my god.
Justin Jefferson can play, but somebody has to throw it to him.
Yeah, but like I don't know. It just like okay, the Bears game he had a horrible game, Dobbs, but prior to that, he's been killing it out there. Um, oh man, oh my god, this is so hard. I don't want to put like a if or sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I should. I'm gonna say if Max Crosby plays, the Raiders win.
I was also thinking the same thing with that, like I guess condition. So let me take a look. Raiders versus Vikings. I just want to double check. It is in Las Vegas.
Yes.
I'm gonna go with the Raiders.
They've been really good at home. The Chiefs game was a little different, but so far so good. And just the way that the Vikings struggled against the Bears, I mean, it almost reminded me of like the Giants or Jets, But again, they're
Mhm.
getting Justin frickin' Jefferson. Oh
So
my god.
Raiders, if only if Crosby plays.
Yes. If Crosby plays. Um
So you do
and the
not like the Raiders' chances without Crosby.
1000%, yes. Um I will say what really gives me hope is the bye week for Bo
Crosby to
Hardegree.
play.
Well, that too, yes. Him being healthier and not having a knee issue, but also the bye week being a big, amount of time for Aiden O'Connell and Bo Hardegree to really work on, the offense and prep for this game and hopefully the rest of the season, you know. So I can see the offense hopefully playing a lot better than they have in recent weeks. As well as the defense, keeping up their usual keep the offense in the game sort of play. But hopefully, Aiden O'Connell and the offense can get it done to where they actually have a completely good game. But we will see. Obviously, it was very close for me. I could have easily just said, "Yeah, Vikings," but I'm going to go with the Raiders as long as Crosby plays.
I'd say it is a pretty close game to saying it's a coin flips, but I'm going with the Raiders.
Yeah,
But you're saying if Crosby plays.
and I think it all stems back to my like the first thing I said, which was both of these teams in their own ways really need this game. I mean, the Vikings are again in like a 5-way tie at 6-6 for the 6 and 7 seed. I think currently they're the 7th seed. They need wins against teams like the Raiders, like
Mhm.
bad, if they want to make the playoffs. And the Raiders are really on the outside looking in, but their head coach needs wins to keep his job. So
Mhm.
yeah, I like the Raiders at home though, as long as Crosby plays.
All right. I do have to go. I mean, we've been on here for 2.5 hours. We're going to take a couple comments before we get out of here. But we appreciate, you guys for, I mean, this has got to be the most comments that we've ever had. And it's great.
Yeah.
We love it.
Yeah.
So Fonzie says, the weird thing is that, that his thigh is also swollen like that, like not just the knee. And also adds, usually if it's just the knee, it'll be the surrounding muscles and bones. That pic looks pretty bad, way more than a knee. It's what I mean. It does look pretty bad in the picture, and as we saw from that one tweet that sort of broke it down, it could be limb and possibly, potentially life-threatening. And then Fonzie also believes that the Raiders will win. James has another excellent question. James, you are killing it with the thought-provoking questions today. So the trade for AJ Brown, was such a tremendous help for the Eagles. What are your thoughts of Adams as a Raider? He's talking to you, Mike. What's that been for you as a fan, and what do you think do you think he will stay long term? Sorry, my brain is a peanut right now.
You're good. I'll start with this little bit of context, just for how I feel towards Davante Adams. Obviously, I've been a diehard fan for as long as since I was in 6th, 7th grade, and now I'm 26, so that's been a while, right? Since 2010, let's say 2009, actually. Sorry, but started getting into the draft like maybe in 2012. Maybe 2011, and I've been all in on that ever since. Like, it's just addicting, right? Just the thought of prospects and all this stuff, and it's like, well, I could watch college football and really get into that stuff. I have an uncle who, funny enough, is a Vikings fan, and I'll probably text him soon about this game. But he attended Fresno State. He played baseball for them, and just because of that, I've always had a soft spot for Fresno State. So when they were playing really well with Derek Carr at quarterback and Davante Adams lighting up college football with his numbers statistically, I had a certain eye out for them, right? So when they entered the draft in 2014, I was saying draft Derek Carr in the 2nd round and trade up for Davante Adams. I want Davante Adams. Like, that year in the draft, I was like, or praying that he would fall to the 3rd round, and then the Packers take him in the 2nd round, and it was like, oh. And it took him a while. At first, he didn't look like this star player that we know now, but he, after like year 2 or 3, he became that dude, right? So as far as what are my thoughts of Adams as a Raider, I mean, Josh, you remember we had a connected franchise mode, and I told you it was like the year before we traded for him. Like, literally the year before, I said Davante Adams is going to be a Raider. The Raiders are going to trade for him, or he's going to sign him for agency. And in like what I like to do in franchise mode, I like to keep it realistic. But that was the one guy I was like, I'm going to trade for him because I think it's realistic. And they did it a year later.
In a similar boat, unrelated, do you remember me saying the same about Jimmy Garoppolo? That I thought Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be a Raider?
Vaguely, yeah.
I
think one of your biggest ones.
You absolutely did call Davante Adams to the Raiders.
Yeah, I think the one I remember for you is you saying either Khalil Mack is going to be a Niner or he's going to return to the Raiders. One of the two.
No. I said Khalil Mack is the type of player to eventually be a 49er towards the end of his career, but not during his prime.
Right, yeah. Which, speaking of, 15 sacks on this season is crazy for him, so it's good. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love having Davante Adams on the Raiders. It's just obviously Derek Carr was a certain part of that, and now he's not, and it makes it kind of odd. Like, the whole restarting at quarterback process, like coming into this offseason, I was just thinking of Davante, like, dude, he's got to fucking hate this. And obviously all the people in the media and everything was like, oh, Devontae's going to want to be traded by week fucking 3, and maybe the Raiders will trade him in this offseason because he's going to demand a trade. And it's like, well, he hasn't demanded one. Okay. He's been a team player this whole time. He's a team leader, right? It's very clear to me from what I've seen, especially this season, especially since McDaniels has been fired. This team relies heavily on 3 players. They're leaders in the locker room: Max Crosby, Josh Jacobs, and Devontae Adams. Those are the 3 guys that lead this team. They are the leaders. They are the captains, so forth. Do I think he will stay long term? I hope so. But also, I wouldn't be mad if the Raiders traded him to a obvious Super Bowl candidate, say,
Before
not now. Yeah, not now, but maybe next year. Right. We talked about that. I said the Niners would have made sense at the trade deadline, the way things were going and McDaniels still being the coach at the time. But also Dallas. God, imagine Dak now with CD and Devontae. That'd be insane. The Lions with Amon-Ra. My goodness, right? I don't think the Bills make sense, but there are a number of teams that you could see that happening. So I could see where if this team, let's say they get a new regime in next season, and it's like, yeah, we are rebuilding, or specifically at quarterback. Obviously, we're keeping Max Crosby, but everybody else is kind of up for grabs, right? Maybe they let Josh Jacobs walk. I don't know because his contract's up. You can still get something for Devontae that is worth a pretty penny, and also maybe do him right by sending him to a Super Bowl caliber team and helping him chase a ring, because that's the last thing that he needs. And otherwise, I think he is a Hall of Famer, but you get him a ring, he's first ballot, So, do I think he stays long term? I think he's willing to. I think he's absolutely willing to because of the whole family thing. He wanted to be close to family, all that, on the West Coast. And I think he enjoys being a Raider and leading this team. But I think it's also a matter of where does this team, what direction does this team go in starting next season? So, but as a fan, for me, it's been great. I just wish that the circumstances at quarterback were better because it could be so much better with him. He could be having 20 touchdowns still,
Mm.
And I hated the idea of trading for Aaron Rodgers, but because I didn't want to give up a first-round pick for a 40-year-old quarterback. But maybe we'd be in the playoffs right now if we had him, admittedly,
Mm.
So it's a great question.
Fonzie also says, by the way, we're going to get to these last couple comments, and then I think we're going to wrap it up for the night. I have to be up in a couple hours. Sucks. Fonzie says, I have Jefferson on my fantasy team, and I've been waiting for 6 weeks for him to come back. You don't know who we're talking about, but, dude, Mike knows.
Renee's team is the 2 teams right now in our fantasy league that are suddenly like, oh shit, dude, look out for them. Renee and Jordan.
Yeah. Honestly, everybody has a shot to win.
Everybody that's in the playoffs right now, absolutely.
Except for Enrique.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So whoever faces him first round is going to be dangerous.
Yeah. So. I was thinking about that. It didn't even occur to me that Jefferson's going to come back to that team.
Jefferson's back, and
Zach Moss.
Yep. He held on to him, and it's going to pay off.
Yeah. And then Zay Flowers has been going off for him, and Rashad White has been going off for him.
Rashad White, yes.
Your chicky nuggies.
Yeah.
But
still ended up getting you Josh Allen, so
eventually. I could have had Mahomes for nothing though. Mike Evans is pretty good. All right, we're going off on a tangent. Fonzie says Crosby is a beast. I agree. Crosby is a beast.
Yeah.
And then Fonzie and Tony are sort of saying peace out. Fonzie said, good night, guys. Tony said, stay strong, gentlemen. Peace out. Tony, thank you again for checking us out. We understand you're a Cowboy fan, and, we feel bad for you, but we appreciate you for coming. And I mean, I guess I feel bad in the sense that, like,
I feel
you're
bad for
watching.
me.
Okay. You don't understand the pain, Mike, of like
Oh, losing a playoff game.
getting.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna suck.
The Niners are
Oh, no.
doing to the Cowboys what the Seahawks did to, like, my team for a decade. Like,
Right.
we've bounced them from the playoffs twice and, like, blew them out the other.
Yeah. I should say I've seen my team at least lose playoff games, but I haven't seen them lose championship games or Super Bowls. That is going to kill me.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. And then Fonzie said, Achan's coming back for him. And then Fonzie asked how I feel about today. I felt great. Debo went off. For more detailed explanation, I wish I had more time to give you to really go through everything that I felt. But if you just rewind to, like, the beginning of the video, we start breaking down the Eagles stuff, and hopefully you're able to get a more clear and concise answer. And if not, feel free next week when I have a little bit more time. Ask me. You can, I'm down to talk about the Eagles game next week. Yeah, I'm flexible.
And also, if you do rewatch our video from the start, you can always comment on the video, and we'll react or comment back.
Mm-hmm. And then Fonzie stashed Kamara and had Achan just come back for him. I don't know how Achan did today. I haven't, like, been fully looking at
2 touchdowns.
Oh, Achan?
Yeah.
Did Alex start him?
I don't know. I mean,
I told him to.
Derrick Henry went crazy.
Alex asked me for advice on Achan. He was like, Achan or some other receiver, and I was like, I would go with Achan. He's like, well, last week he got hurt.
Alex is projected. Oh my God, Renee scored 153.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And he's the 3rd seed, dude. Look out.
I think I technically have the 1 seed in lock, even if I lose out.
Well, no, not the 1 seed. You have the 2 seed.
Or the 1 seed in our division.
Right. Yeah. No, you're good.
Because I think the division record is how it goes.
Unless you lose out score really badly, and he does 153.
I don't think it's based off a score when it's inside a division. I think inside a division, it's division record, and I'm currently undefeated.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. James says, have a good night, boys. Thanks for the content. Thanks for checking out the 4th quarter clock gate. No, I mean, thank you for bringing that to to our attention, and I'm glad that we were able to check it out and look at it right then and there. So it was definitely an interesting little part of the stream. So we appreciate, even as an Eagles fan, somebody who can enjoy good content. James also says, I also feel bad for the Raiders. I shall never feel bad for the Cowboys. 10-42 Cowboys versus 49ers. LOL. Oh, man. Luckily, it seems like Tony has already gone to bed, so he didn't have to have nightmares about that. And Fonzie says, can I play with you guys next season? Mike and I talked about the possibility of having a fantasy league for, like, the silver and gold. Yeah, the podcast viewers. So I don't like to do more than one fantasy league. And right now our current fantasy league is booked. Mike's got like 5 to 10 leagues that he's doing right now. Like, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah. He is doing 5. He's actually doing that. And he's losing in every single one. But like I said, I like to focus on one team, and that's just, I'm laser focused on that team. Because, like, all right, let's just say I do more than one league and I have Mike in it, and I I say one thing in the main league, and then in the other league, I do another thing. It's like a conflict of interest.
Like if I was in both leagues.
Like, let's just say I was trying to trade away, or no, let's just say I was trying to trade for a player. Like, I acquire a player in one league, it kind of gives it away that in the other league, I want to go for that player.
Yeah, but I mean, in the other league, you might not have the ability to even get that player, Or, I mean, like I'm in 5 different leagues. I'm going for different defenses and kickers every week. I'm going for different receivers to have it like stashed up in my backups and stuff. And I mean, some leagues I have fab, some leagues it's just waiver priority in different ways, or whether it's rolling or, depending on how recently you used it or based off of standings, right? It's going to be different no matter what. Like, yeah, there are certain weeks where I'm like, oh man, I have to go trade for Devontae Smith or I have to go trade for this guy. There was a week where I was like, I'm going to try to get Debo in every league. And you're not going to be able to in every league, It's just like, what can you do, So
yeah, I kind of get not annoyed. I don't get annoyed, but it's just like it'll go kind of in one ear and out the other whenever like, all right, Mike's like just kind of getting his tush pushed in our league, in like the main league, and then he's like, yeah, but in my other league, and then it's like, grab that thought.
well, okay, here, you know what?
I was like,
Now I want
if you're
to
really
show.
that good, Mike, you would be good in the league that I'm in.
Well, now I want to show Fonzie this because this shit's like ridiculous to me.
Tony said time will tell. LOL. Oh no, Tony saw the comment about the Cowboys-Niner game. I'm so sorry, Tony. So sorry. But yes, time will tell. Time is undefeated.
I'm just gonna.
Time even got Tom Brady, and Tom Brady made it his mission to fight time.
All right, I don't want to show my team name, but I'm just gonna read this off. Okay. 3 weeks in a row for one of my leagues, one of my teams. Right. This is one of the things you're probably talking about. I was the 3rd seed 4 weeks ago in this other fantasy league.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we were talking about. Like, we literally talked about. I was like, between all of our viewers that like show up consistently, if we got all of them in a fantasy league, that'd be awesome. I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to do it. But
maybe
Josh
I will
won't.
consider. Maybe I'll have to consider. I don't know. I'm kind of stubborn and I'm kind of tired. It's all. I have to go to bed.
Yeah. So I'm gonna end with this. 4 weeks ago, I was the 3rd seed in this league. I faced. I don't even know who this guy is. Just one of my buddies' leagues with like his coworkers. I scored 166.2. My opponent scored 166.56. Yeah, so I lost by 0.3. And then the following week, I faced my buddy who got me in this league. I scored 142.66. He scored 145.76. So I lost by 3 points. And then last week, I faced another guy who I don't know. I scored 115.5. He scores 116.8. And then this week, I got absolutely raw dogged. Let me see what the score ended up being. I scored 117. He scored 156. And that's a pretty high scoring league. Like 150 is kind of what you're aiming for. Whereas in our league, it's like you're usually aiming for like 100, 110. But now I'm like the 7th or 8th seed out of 6 playoff teams, and the playoffs start in like 2 weeks. Like I'm probably cooked. And I actually have a really good team. So I'm pretty butthurt about those 3 in a row. Oh my God. And that's the thing. Like, you're laser focused on one team. Like, in my opinion, I'm focused on all of them. And okay, yeah, I might suck with, our league, my team sucks. But like, I feel like a lot of it was kind of bad luck, but whatever. But all the other leagues, like I have a shot, and I'm laser focused every week on getting that to work. And I also go for the same defenses and yada, yada, yada. But yeah. I mean, I just got A-Chain back in one of my leagues and that felt great. So, and the playoffs start next week in that league. So,
not to abruptly end the conversation, but what would feel great is if I go rest my head on my pillow before I have to wake up in an unfortunate less than 5 hours. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
It's going to be awful in the morning, but we will explore the idea of making a league for next season for the stream viewers.
I also want us to get on some social media platforms soon. Hopefully by the end of the season or by the playoffs or something.
Mm-hmm. But anyways, I appreciate everyone who checked out the stream. Tony, James, Fonzie, Joel, Pia, you guys were awesome contributing to the show. And, we'll check back in next week, probably next Mondays when I assume that the stream will be. But if it has to change, just keep an eye out for a notification or anything. And if we can't do it by Monday, I'll try and put a little Facebook post. I mean, not Facebook, YouTube post. And I'll say, we're shooting for Tuesday. But yeah, just look out for any notifications. There won't be any of the smaller videos this week where I splice it up because I am going on vacation. And yeah, and right now I'm going to bed. Have a good night, everyone. Peace.